All set? All right, call the meeting to order. Start with the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we get into the agenda, I just wanted to have a moment of silence for the teachers and children and families in Texas and Buffalo and every place else that has suffered. So just take a moment. Thanks. All right. Hopefully we can get on to more positive things. We're going to start out with volleyball. We tried to get you guys in here. I don't know how many times, but you always got something more important to do. So anyway. Oh,
Coach Salutatorian, can you come on up?
Thank you guys for having us. I appreciate that. The board for recognizing the ladies here and the administration for all your support, obviously, over the years. Volleyball this year, I've been doing this for 20 years here at Millbrook. I've been a varsity coach for 27 years overall, and I don't think I've ever had a team as gifted and talented as this team this year. For those of you who didn't follow along that closely, some of the things that they did this year, being a Class C school, for those who don't know, schools are separated by school enrollment, and it goes from AA being the biggest down to D being the smallest. We are one of the smallest Class C schools in New York State for volleyball. We're always right there on the verge of dropping down to D by 2-3 students every single year. And this year, this team beat the biggest school in New York State, Shen, who ended up advancing to the state Final Four as a AA school. They beat Walter Panis, who advanced to the state championship as an A school. They beat 4 other schools that were at the state Final Four. So out of the 20 schools in the Final Four, they had beaten 6 of them at some point in time during the season, which is just remarkable for the size school that we have. It's unbelievable accomplishments. We've had so many honors amongst the players on the team. We had the Poughkeepsie Journal Player of the Year. We had 2 first teamers, 2 first team All-State players. I could go on and on and on about the accomplishments of this team. But overall, best record we've ever had. We did come up short in the state championship again, but we will get that one of these years. That's what we're working on. But as a coach, they all know, the parents know, I demand a lot from my players. I'm not easy to play under. I expect a lot of high expectations. I expect a lot of dedication and commitment. And I couldn't ask for a better group of people to work with as far as that stuff goes. So I'm very proud of them and their accomplishments this year.
Coach, could you introduce your players?
I certainly can. We've got Molly McMorris, Valerie McGuire, Kate Delma, Lucy Freed, Kate Day, Mary Weller, Lou Oliver, Emily Corbin, Ryan Hart, Gianna DiPalato, Darnell, and our JV coach, Rob Yellow. I missed everybody.
What's interesting to me is the feedback that we get. Even forget about records. The feedback we get on their leadership, on the way they interact with other teams, their manners. I mean, it's really is amazing. You've done a great
Special
job.
group of people. No doubt
You
about
guys
that.
are great. Thank you very much.
And some of us do need to get the volleyball Friday.
There you go. All right. Next on the agenda, Laura and I had the honor of sitting with our valedictorian and our salutatorian at the Dutchess County Honor Student breakfast. And for those that know me, I don't miss a free breakfast. But anyway, Laura, would you present the valedictorian and salutatorian to us?
Sure. I am honored to introduce to the board our 2022 valedictorian, David Sager. David started in Millbrook schools in the first grade. During attending the Millbrook High School, he has been involved in sports and a variety of extracurricular activities, including soccer, track and field, and mock trials for all 4 years. He has been a member of the National Honor Society for the past 2 years and participated in winter track for 3 years of his 4 years. The biggest lesson he learned in high school was to be confident. There are always people out there to support you. You need to get it done. David also volunteers and works with the Town of Washington Recreation Department. He's a lifeguard during the summer and helps coach and referee soccer and referees basketball. David will attend Liberty University in the fall, majoring in mechanical engineering. And I am honored to introduce to the board our 2022 Salutatorian, Molly McMorris. Molly started in Millbrook schools as a kindergartner. She is a volleyball manager, softball player, student council treasurer, class of 2022 treasurer, equestrian competitor, and member of the National Honor Society, Girl Scouts, and Drama Club. Molly is working toward her Gold Award in Girl Scouts, the most prestigious award given by the organization. Her project centers on community improvement and the beautification of the Burbank Rural Cemetery. When not in school, Molly is passionate about horses and equestrian competition and plans to ride in college, where she plans to major in civil engineering. Molly will be attending Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. Molly said, "I am grateful for all of the opportunities, experiences, and individuals that I have encountered throughout my years in Millbrook schools. They have all contributed to the enlightened person I am today."
Congratulations to both of you. Very, very nice. Very nice. All right. Now we get kind of a little bit of sad, depending on who you talk to, you know. We acknowledge our retirees. If I added it right, there's 194 years of service to Millbrook in this group. I think you have most of it, though, don't you, Jim? Anyway, good.
Okay, so I have a little something for everyone. Let's start with Karen Outwater, 22 years. In loco parentis is a term that is often used to talk about the responsibility that educators often have when students are in school. Acting as parent when parents are not around has been the hallmark of Karen Outwater's tenure in the Millbrook Central School District. As an educator, parent, and community member of Millbrook, all families always know that their child is in great hands when they enter and exit Ms. Outwater's classroom. Ms. Outwater can be seen in classrooms, but is also regularly found around the community and after school, going above and beyond for her students. For 22 years, Ms. Outwater's students and their families have experienced kindness, compassion, and genuine involvement in the educational process. She emotionally involves herself in the lives of each and every one of her students and advocates for them as if they were her own. It has been a pleasure to have her as part of our team. And sitting next to her is her husband, James Outwater, who is also part of the Millbrook Central School District team. When you walk through the front doors of our high school, you are greeted by James Outwater. His humor, helpfulness, and contagious smile make everyone entering the building feel comfortable, important, and welcome. Beyond the grand desk that he sits behind, you can I Spy Jim at sporting events and performances where he supports and cheerleads for all of our students and their many accomplishments. James has been in the Millbrook Central School District for 10 years. Thank you so much for your service. Right in front of the Outwarders is Dawn Harkenrider, 35 years. Dawn has been the backbone of the 8th grade team throughout her tenure at Millbrook Middle School. She has truly been a leader inside and outside the classroom in so many ways. She has served on countless committees and has served as a leading voice of Millbrook Middle School. Her daily efforts and educational practices are exemplar of the type of education that propelled our middle school to be recognized an essential elements schools to watch. Like Ms. Outwater, Ms. Harkenrider is also an educator, parent, and community member of the Millbrook Central School District. She can be found throughout the fabric of our educational community. Outside the classroom, Dawn has led numerous athletic teams and a multi-state champion as a coach in girls basketball. Dawn's experience, expertise, leadership, superior organizational skills, and unique sense of humor will truly be missed. Georgia Herring, 33 years. Georgia started here in 1988. Her interview was scheduled 3 days after she gave birth to her oldest child. Although she had a job offer at Spackenkill, she chose Millbrook because she really enjoyed the atmosphere better. Yes, she has taught everything in history from 7th grade to 12th grade, except for Global 9. She has also brought several AP classes to Millbrook, human geography, comparative government, as well as US history and US government, and was one of the first distance learning teachers back in 1994 when we had a countywide network linking all public schools. As a DL teacher, she taught anthropology and sociology to students in Weebatuck, Spackenkill, Pine Plains, and Beacon. As the field trip queen, she has taken students on many trips over the years: Boston, Philadelphia, Florida, Cooperstown, New York City, and the highlight, Japan. She was also an advisor for several clubs: the Yorker Club, the classes of 08, 10, 12, 15, 19, Model UN, Mock Trial, Japan Club, and National Honor Society. She has also held the mock election since 1988 with an unbroken streak of our school predicting the presidential winner. Georgia said, "It's been a great run here at Millbrook, and I enjoyed every minute of it." Kyle Shoemaker, how are you? 36 years. He started here in August of 1986 to teach 7 through 12 mathematics and to start a soccer program at Millbrook Central Schools. Kyle taught 7th grade math for 25 years, as well as 8th grade math, computer programming, computer course spreadsheets, word processing, and databases. Math 12, pre-calc, Algebra 2 trig, Algebra 1, Sequence 2, Algebra 1 CC coming 4, Geometry coming 4, 15 years, Math A, double accelerated, Math B, computer programming independent study, Algebra 1.5, IB standard level year 1 and year 2. And I believe Kyle basically taught every course in the 7th through 12th curriculum besides calculus. Yes? Kyle was also a middle school coordinator for the 7th through 12th high school building and chairman of the first BLT committee in the 7th through 12th building. He started the boys soccer program in 1988 and has coached it right on through. He started the girls program around 1994 and coached for about 5 years. Kyle coached boys basketball modified, girls basketball modified JV, softball modified JV, boys 10 years. Thank you for your service. Frank Burns is here. He sent in a little about himself. He says, as a bibliophile, I was given the chance to teach the books I love to a captive audience. What other profession would have given me that opportunity? As a teacher, I was given the greatest compliment when a number of my students became English teachers. They told me because of my class. Thank you, Frank. And then Mr. Lipka.
Okay, I have Sue Scaglio, and she's taught the past 23.4 years in Millbrook as an AIS reading teacher. She spent her first 7 years in the Hopkins Druze District teaching Italian. And so her certifications in Italian and reading were two cornerstones of her teaching career. In Millbrook, she's touched the lives of our children in each building, kindergarten through 12. Over a 5-year span, Sue was in each of the buildings during that time. A whole year at Elm Drive, a whole year at Alton Place, split between the middle school and high school for a couple of years, and a whole year in the middle school, I think. Connections with students, families, and colleagues make her remarkable. One of her longtime colleagues said this morning, Sue made a difference with students, with all of her students, by building their success in reading and love for reading. Sue says that gaining that Wilson certification in 2014 was one of her highlights, and that it allowed her to support even more students. We applaud her career and her commitment to Millbrook's success. Fantastic effort, Mrs. Gabrielle.
And you got one more. Hey, Tobin, you awake?
Oh, yeah. Keeping it going.
We got you on the list of people that are retiring. So, Paul, I mean, you've been on the board longer than anybody now. You've been the voice of reason as far as academics are concerned. I really, this breaks my heart to say nice things about you, but I thank you, Paul, for all your dedication and 9 years on the board.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you guys too. Congratulations to all the retirees and your years of service. We appreciate each and every one. Thank you.
One last time, everybody.
Right.
And for anybody that was on any of Kyle's teams, they're talking about shoe. Because that's all my son ever do. Shoe this and shoe that. Very good. All right. Next up is the consent agenda. We'll get back to the boring part. Anything, anybody, before I call for a motion, anything anyone wants to pull off this list? Anything? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
So a second?
Second.
Is there anything anybody wants more details on? There's a couple we can't really do more details on, but anything? No? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any against? The next is the BOCES spotlight, just there for your entertainment. Do we have anything, questions from the public? Cheryl?
I don't know.
You got others first.
Okay. So I have a couple from Ed and Nate. The first one is actually addressed, but she's commenting that the Pride Club wasn't on the website, but it is on the website as part of the clubs. And she asked, stated that her questions from the last meeting were not responded to, and she's wondering if the police report from the incident 10th grade field trip would be available to parents, but they can foil that from the state police themselves.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right, good. Great. Just, I hate to do this, 3 minutes, but please don't mention any other students' names. You're right. Okay.
We're teachers, right?
Our teachers or administrators. Oh. All right.
You have more than 3 minutes worth of talk?
3 minutes was the limit.
Oh, no, Alex.
Well, we could check, I wouldn't walk out, but okay.
Okay. All right, board president report. Bunch of stuff. First of all, went to Elm and Alden's field days. It was the best, seeing the kids with parents and grandparents and like acting like normal school children again. That was phenomenal. The one up at the high school for Alden, that was, well, first of all, Tom and his weather capabilities are amazing, but it was so beautifully run. They went from place to place. Great thing. Went to the high school concert. Without a doubt, Millbrook just amazes me year after year after year. From when they first start playing through the high school, they get they're so good on the instruments, but they get that swagger going, and it's just a great thing. And then hit the award ceremony today and the award ceremony for middle school. And again, parents there, family there, kids excited about, yelling and screaming for each other. It was just amazing. And the last thing I wanted to do was thank Dutchess County for this honors breakfast. It was an honor to be there to celebrate with those guys on their valedictorian and salutatorian. Just a great time. So thank you to them. Hopefully they hear that at some point. That's really all I've got, I think. Yep. Do you have anything, Howard?
Yeah. We'll take this off so these people can see my face. I'd just like to thank the board for the last 3 years. I had the honor of serving as your vice president. At our reorganization meeting in July, beginning of July, I will not be running for vice president. Several reasons. One, especially most important, is it's time to pass the torch to somebody else who have different ideas and different ways of getting things done. I've always believed also, as Shakespeare said, to get out while the going is good. So based upon that, also being part of board leadership kind of has locked me into certain policies that I've not wholeheartedly agreed with, that I feel I can be better as an advocate for the student, for the parents, and for the community at large, being just a regular board member. It was an honor serving. There's a lot of great things that were done in the last 3 years, 6 years, 12 years that people have been on the board. However, not everything is rah-rah, as we all know. The problem with bullying issues, there are numerous things that I wish we could have done better. I want to thank Millbrook moms for alerting us to problems that we at the board level were not aware of. And Millbrook moms is a definite way to keep people with limited or no voice to spread the word. So I congratulate Millbrook moms for at least alerting this board to numerous issues that we would not have known about. I do want to also, speak about the bullying issue. I will quote the New York Post from Sunday, June 5th, where in the article on page 30, page 6 it appears, dealing with New York City. However, and I'll quote, it says, "The kids know that there are no consequences," and they're talking about bullying. "Students who want to learn, the vast majority, get cheated. Everyone is so concerned with the rights of the 2 or 3 upstarts in the room that the other 30 kids, their rights to get an education, to be able to sit in an environment that's not intimidating, that's not scary, that's not filled with noise, doesn't matter." And I don't have the answers. If I did, I would be a very smart guy. So, but we will find those answers. And we will not only find those answers, but as we're finding those answers on what causes and perpetuates bullying, we will also take care of during this time period, the bullying issue, so students can feel safe and get an education in school, in this school especially. That I feel is one of the failures that I take personally and will continue on this board as long as the community wants to serve, wants me to serve in this capacity as a board member. Again, I want to thank everybody. I promise I will not give a speech of next meeting, which will be my last as vice president. You can mark off vice president before. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Howard. All right, Laura?
Good evening, everybody. Nice to see you all. So starting out with some shout outs, we have Celebrate Pride Month with Millbrook High School. Come join Poughkeepsie Pride Parade on June 11th and walk with our members of the Millbrook High School community. The parade starts at 11 a.m. on Market Street in front of the Bardavon Theater. Esports, just to let you know, we had an excellent first season with our Rocket League team taking second in the finals. PTO spent the month of May appreciating everybody in the community, in our school community, all of our staff, and has special lunches for our food service, our facilities team, and our first student team. So thank you, PTO. And middle school community is celebrating the last days with themes. But I also noticed that high school, and I wasn't sure if Alden was doing themes as well every day, but this is chock filled of themes that was really community minded. Kids were wearing PJs and they were wearing sports team shirts. So it really created dialogue like, yo, you like that team? I like that team. Why don't we talk about scores? Or I don't like that team. And you can tell me why you don't like that team. But it just seemed like there was more conversation, more uplifting conversation. There was ice cream, there's game day, there was karaoke, and some of our staff got up and sang well. So it was just really nice community building. So shout out to everybody who put this together. It's been a great few weeks. Just for district news staffing, I'm going to provide a quick little PowerPoint with all of the work that's been going behind the scenes with the interviewing, demo, and hiring. We're also going to talk about our needs and then follow up with our proposal for 2 additional positions here. But I'll come to that after I finish with the rest of my report. CSEA, we're in the process of negotiating a new contract with them. This is interesting and exciting news for a student. Identified by the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, recently announced Clean School Bus Program as an eligible applicant. So they're in the midst of filling out that application, preparing the application for submission. So that's great news. And then I just had an honor of attending a number of things that Perry spoke about as well. The Dutchess County Recognition Breakfast was amazing. The High School Arts Festival was amazing. I'm like, why go to Broadway when we could just come to Millbrook and see our kids in action? The Middle School Academic Awards, I was lucky enough to go to the girls' varsity basketball celebration dinner, and that was at Fireside Restaurant. I actually first went to that Furnace restaurant that I thought and then I'm like, no, this is the wrong place. And I went to the Fireside. It was very nice, lots of certificates, kind words, support for our kids, accolades to our coaches. It was nice to see parents. It was very intimate little event. So it was nice. Alden and Elm Field Day, and then our track and field. So at Section 9 Championship, Millbrook placed within the top 3 in 8 events. In 5 events, we took first place. So I'm going to give you a little list of our athletes. Section 9 Class D, boys, 8-meter champion Garrett Ackerman, boys 100-meter champion Nolan Pizzaro, boys 200-meter champion Nolan Pizzaro, boys high jump champion David Sager, girls 200-meter champion Sabrina Mongan, second place girls 100-meter Sabrina Mongan, second place boys 4 times 100-meter relay Caden Daly, Julian Kauchek, David Sager, and Nolan Pizzaro, and third place boys 800-meter David Sager. These athletes advanced to the state qualifier meet on June 2nd and 3rd. We had 6 athletes compete in the state qualifying meet in 8 different events. This is the most athletes we've had qualify for this meet in recent years. Each athlete did a fantastic job, and many received personal records in their respective events. Nolan Kazera placed first in the 200-meter finals with a time of 22.75. He will advance to the New York State Public High School Athletic Association State Championship meet, which will take place on Friday, June 10th, and Saturday, June 11th. Nolan will be the first Millbrook student to compete in the state championship in 10 years. We are excited to see what he accomplishes this weekend. We're also very proud of the entire Millbrook track and field team and their many successes. Go team, great season. And just a little on the COVID front, I'm sorry, but the screening testing for staff has been extended just until June 30th, and then it terminates. Schools will not be required to test unvaccinated teachers and staff weekly. That's what I have.
Very good. Very good. Questions for Laura? You know, I hate going backwards, but one thing I did need to bring up, I thought BOCES was on the agenda. A group came into the Dutchess County School Board Association and presented a plan, sort of, to tear down the old YMCA building down in Poughkeepsie. They're going to build a community center there. They want Weebatuck, Millbrook, Pine Plains to go there. I really don't know. When I looked at it, there was a lot of replication with BOCES programs that they want to run. So if you guys see anything on it, because it was a little bit vague. There was a lot of, yeah, we'd like to do that, you know, or yeah, if we could find the funding. They wanted Dutchess County to provide free busing to all the school districts to the community center. Now, I don't know what time our kids would actually arrive at the community center in Poughkeepsie, but if you see anything on it, bring it, let me know, because like I said, it was very vague, and I'm curious as to whether they really have this money to, it's got to be, you know, over $100 million, I would think, to rip that thing down and put up a whole new structure. But anyway, sorry, didn't mean to go backwards.
So just with the staffing and the interviews, here are a couple of slides. The board asked about personnel updates, and then Howard, you asked for descriptors, job descriptors for the 2 positions that we were proposing. And then we also wanted to share just the work that's happening in the background to make sure that we identify the best candidates for our kids, because they deserve quality education that we have promised. So this is shared prior to the board meeting, and not sure if you were able to see it, but you'll see all of the vacancies, folks who are just moving out of district, and then all of our retirees. And so we're in the process of filling those vacancies. And so teacher teams and administrative teams vetted the resumes, chose some candidates that we thought would be fine candidates for here. There were multiple panel interviews. You'll see, like, for the first one, secondary math, we had 1 position. There were 23 resumes. There were 8 interviews, 2 demos, and then it ended with a recommendation of 2 candidates to Caroline and myself. So that's our process right there. So you'll see there are 12 positions total. 324 resumes were reviewed. There were 70 panel interviews, 25 demo lessons, and 18 final interviews. This is truly a family affair, a team approach. Everybody's involved in this work. It's because it's that important. Making a mistake is very hard to step back from. Making sure that we find the right candidates who are showing promise, who have talent, who are great or will move from good to great are the people that we're looking for. And the recommendations from the panels were just stellar. I feel like Caroline and I were very impressed who was brought forth for us to meet. It was not an easy process. These decisions are hard because they do bring so much talent and skill to the table. not such a bad problem to have, right? So you will see on the agenda that we have identified some great additions to the family. We're still in the process. We're still, we have one more ELA interview, I believe, a science interview, special ed, reading teacher, but we're chipping away. So I want to say thank you to the administrative team for all of your work and for all the teachers and staff members who are part of this. And we're excited to see new faces. We're sad to see faces leave, but I feel like they're all leaving for a good reason. And I wish them a wonderful and exciting next adventure while we place other folks in classrooms for our kids.
What about the,
Next one, next slide. So these are our needs, our current needs. So the business office, as you know, we're still looking for a director of business and finance, which we just reposted. Senior account clerk, typist, and account clerk. This still have not come out. So we're all waiting, along with many other districts, to fill these positions. We have, right now, we have a part-time CSE chair, and if you want to speak to it, just the high volume, the increase
In my
is,
report, actually.
excuse me?
It's in my report, actually.
Oh, okay. So we have an opportunity to expand that position. I don't know if you want to speak it now, or do you want to speak it at it then?
It's really fine either way. So at this point, at the end of May, we are 119 meetings ahead of where we were last May, and 59 more meetings than last year's total. And we still have the entire month of June to count. This year has been extremely busy. We're getting new referrals for various reasons. We've had some new folks move into the district. We've had some new CPSE referrals for students in preschool. I think that we're seeing a lot of speech needs. It could be because of mask wearing for a bit of time, and just a whole host of other reasons. We've had some referrals based on student mental wellness, and just academic struggles from students in district and students who have moved into district, from students in private schools within our catchment area. But the numbers that are moving through the PPS office in terms of scheduling meetings and hosting meetings, creating IEPs, fulfilling IEPs, student placements and programs outside of the district if they have a more intensive need than we can meet here. The volume is just unbelievably increased.
I mean, I know it's like predicting the weather, but does it look like this is going to continue, or is this a exiting COVID bubble and hopefully it'll come back down?
It's hard to say, right? So our students, until they have benefited from enough of the instruction to maybe close the gaps that they're experiencing, whatever they be, whether they're social, emotional, related, service related, or academic, it's here for now.
Okay.
So we're going to need to respond. And then, as things change in the future, if we're able to provide more services and help students out and we don't have this need, we might be having a different conversation. But right now, this is the reality of what we're experiencing.
Okay.
And then we have facilities, and it's, I'll even speak to it more, the shift of personnel within the team.
Yeah, so obviously, Mr. Mullins has done a fantastic job of driving our department. We're going to look to get him some support in the coming school year in terms of subordinate supervision within the ranks. One of the big changes that we're looking to make is the implementation of the senior custodial worker position. That would allow us to promote our most tenured, most experienced custodial workers from within the system to a position of, I'd say, intermediate supervision. It also adds boiler and heating plant operations and security, building security to their purview. So we want to just create some opportunities for growth and leadership within the ranks to support the work that John's doing to drive the department.
But we're already down like a couple of positions there, right?
I think we have one net vacancy in the department. that we're recruiting for. We have some subs in play that are kind of like going through the trial period, if you will.
So when John went over to that assignment, did we backfill that job?
Not officially. So what that would be is once John's position is solidified, then we would look to make another positional modification, which may not be an add, may just be a promotion within it.
And then the food services, this has been a conversation with the food services committee, just talking about what can we do to retain staff in our cafeterias, in our kitchens. And it was a recommendation before our manager left, as something to consider. And maybe having a food service worker for elementary and a food service worker for our secondary schools. And so that would be full-time positions along with our new cook position. Right now, we're leaning heavily on the facilities team, and that the food service workers who are in our kitchens right now are working tons of overtime already. So this seems like a wise step direction to make sure that we're putting a sustainable structure in our cafeterias. And then there's that shared secretary position that's still out there. We had one person who was supporting all 4 departments, and then we broke it up. But then unfortunately, we lost the new hire. So we still have that vacancy. That one person continues to support many departments, and it's a lot. So we're waiting for another list, right?
But really on this chart, the still needed, there's only like maybe 1, 2 positions that are like adds. Everything else is sort of backfill and replacements.
Yeah. And the increase for the CSE can be grant supported.
Yeah.
Expansion of that.
Like permanently or just the first year?
No, we could probably keep it in grants long term.
Okay.
The gap between the current and what would make, so it would be the difference between 10 months and 12 months, essentially, having summer hours.
Okay.
And we do that with other positions with grant money.
Thank you, actually.
And then the last piece was the extension of our SEL conversation. And those were our proposed next steps. Continue with Yale Ruler, we had our Family University, we'll continue to have more of those. Website revisions, DASA policy and code of conduct reviews, district wellness panel, branching minds, Old Bayes, Glisten. We just added the new district climate and culture committee, which you might have seen that alert go out. We have about 10 people who have shown interest in being part of that committee, which is great. Lots of mostly parents and community members. And a climate survey. So we spoke a little bit with Chris LaBelle and Jennifer and the administrative team, just maybe a quick climate survey, because before the end of the school year, just to get a temperature of where our kids are and possible needs and ways we can support them. And then if we decide to fully go with Olveus, there is a climate culture that's a climate survey that's built into it after students have been here for a number of weeks.
Yeah.
So that the last piece there are the staffing recommendations. And if you remember, we proposed the Council on Addiction Prevention and Education, CAPE, as well as a district-wide assistance principal with a focus on SEL, as well as administrative duties to relieve our principals of some of the work that they've been bogged down with so that they can be the instructional leaders that we need them to be. Both of those positions can be funded by grant money as well. I have Chrissy here, who's from CAPE, and
Before we do that, the one thing, and I don't honestly know where we are, but when the high school was built, there was a commitment that we basically had all the administration we needed. Now we've had a bunch of, the high school was built before COVID, before the mold problem, before the, you name it. So, but we really have to think hard about adding an assistant principal. At least that's my take on it. I mean, we have to see this is exactly what this person's gonna do. You know, if they're gonna be part of the SEL program, they're gonna be running the SEL program and be able to talk to it whenever there's an issue, so.
Absolutely. So before we go to Chrissy from Cape, we'll show you, we broke it out for the SEL student and family support responsibilities and duties. Overseeing exactly what you were saying, Carrie. And then on the next screen, I know it's a lot, is more the administrative piece for this position.
And why do we need a dean of students? Position, a half position, excuse me.
So we still need somebody to work with students in behaviors. It's an addition, it's a complement. This person, I don't know if you,
All right, but once you piece it all together, we'll discuss it.
okay.
The other thing, I'm assuming that Governor Hope will get this gun control thing through. We need to figure out how we're gonna interact with that red flag law, assuming that's part of it, how we're going to interact with red flag, because the teachers, the administrators here, I would think would have, you know, if somebody's, and it's not just about somebody's gonna do harm to others, it's somebody's gonna do harm to themselves. So we really need to start thinking about, you know, maybe Mike Officer Freer can help. But we need to start thinking about how we're gonna use that in a positive way, because I think it's got a lot of power to it. But again, you can't just like, well, let's red flag. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I think that goes on behind the scenes. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead. You want to do Chrissy now?
Yeah. Chrissy, you want to come up and it's a little overview of the program?
Okay.
Thank you so much for having me here. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to just say that I have a really strong affinity for this district, as I interned here as a school counselor and then worked here for quite a few years as a full-time district sub. And so coming into this position as director of Cape, having this affinity for the district and also the affinity for the organization that I work with, I just, I'm really honored to be here. And I think listening to everything that I've heard tonight, that I can present a really strong argument for why Cape would be a really good asset and partner to the district. So for those of you who don't know exactly what Cape does, Cape is short for the Council on Addiction Prevention and Education, and we've been around since the 80s. And we were very focused on prevention strictly. So as an agency, we do prevention education. A couple of years back, we added the addition of recovery services, and we do referrals out. We do not do treatment. We are not a treatment provider. Regardless of that, our school-based staff are all trained mental health counselors or some affiliate to that. So a school counselor can fit the bill, a KSAC or a substance abuse counselor. And we're very focused over the years on substance misuse and abuse prevention and education. And when COVID came on the scene a few years ago, there's always been a connection. Obviously, there's serious comorbidity between substance use and mental health issues. But we always kept in our lane with prevention, substance use prevention. But when COVID hit, and the whole world went into a tailspin and mental health issues were increased 500-fold. The state that governs us really, the Office of Alcohol, changing their name all the time, OASIS, right? The Office of Addiction Supports and Services, broadened the scope of what prevention providers could do and opened that piece to allowing for the mental health support as well as the substance use prevention support. So what does a CAPE counselor do that's different than the people you already have, like your school counselors and your school social workers and even your school psychologists? It's a very specific job, and they are very highly trained in a particular skill of prevention and connection, and they also have a community base. So if you were to embed we call them substance use prevention skills counselors, counselor educators, if you were to embed one in your school district, first of all, you would have leeway as to how you would like to do that. If you had full-time counselors, they could go between both your schools, your middle and high school, and they could even filter out into the elementary schools a little bit. I've been talking with Laura for quite a few months. You know, again, when COVID hit, we sent out letters to all districts trying to, in a gentle way, push the services on all schools because there is such a need. And I am a true believer in, there's a lot of C words in this industry. And for me, they are not competition. They are community, collaboration, and compassion. And I would venture to add comfort, because my staff is fully trained in a brand new training called comfort training. And this is something that everyone could use, no matter how good we think we are at comforting others in this day and age. We really need these skills. CAPE counselors not only work with students and their families, they work with staff. So for instance, you mentioned your family university, which I remember dearly. You can have a CAPE counselor come, or even our community educator, and facilitate a presentation for staff, for family. We have adult education programs like the Blind Spots program, which is creating a mock teen bedroom filled with all kinds of terrifying paraphernalia. I like to call it a terrifying scavenger hunt for adults, but you get a heck of an education that you never knew was out there. And again, we do those things for staff development days. So the CAPE counselor is a CAPE employee who works in your building and becomes part of your school family, but we provide all the training, insurance, everything. You know, they are our employee. They follow your schedule and our schedule, but they are here to do what you need them to do and collaborate with your pupil personnel staff and any other staff, a lot of health teachers, of course, to provide your students with the additional support that they need. And I would just like to read one statistic regarding the legalization of marijuana. So a couple of things that are going to be a huge problem are the continued vaping epidemic and the legalization of marijuana. Now, while these are both illegal to our youth, we all know that they're using them as young as 5th grade. So based on the most recent peer-reviewed research, the proposal to legalize non-medical marijuana as it was in New York City will impact all of New Yorkers, but have the most negative consequences on our youth. The latest study just published back in February of 2021 concluded that recreational marijuana legalization in California was associated with an increase in adolescent marijuana use in 2017, 2018, and 2019. Demographic subgroup differences in these associations were observed, and evidence-based prevention programs and greater local control on retail marijuana sales can greatly reduce marijuana availability and use among adolescents. Of course, car crashes, negative school and career outcomes, mental health issues, physical problems. These are just some of the recently documented issues associated with the legalization of today's marijuana, which is incredibly more dangerous than back in our time. So schools, so our school-based counselors work with the school, they work with our community and our coalitions to support the students and provide the additional care regarding mild substance use, mental health issues, and any other support services that you would deem necessary. They also, we highly recommend that they participate, co-facilitate if you already have a SAD club, or else begin a SAD club, which is Students Against Destructive Decisions. We recommend that they participate in a child study team, anything that you want them to be a part of where you feel they can support the work in the district for you and support the students and their families. We highly recommend you just reach out and engage with the CAPE counselor. All we ask of the CAPE counselor, of the school district, is that you provide the office, a confidential office, a device for them to communicate in your school. They have their own CAPE device, which they usually don't bring to the schools. They work within your district on your device, so they need an email and a phone extension. And then everything is written into the contract regarding confidentiality, which are all the same rules that you have within your schools among people for personnel services. I do want to just add that as a parent, so as an employee, a former employee of this district, as the director of CAPE, an agency that I dearly believe in, and as a parent, I just want to say from a personal standpoint that I have personal proof that the CAPE counselors are so valuable to students. I have 3 children. My middle was the most difficult, she still is. And in her high school years, we're from Wingdale, Dover. So Dover has always had a CAPE counselor in their schools. And this CAPE counselor 12 years ago saved my daughter's life. And to this day, my daughter is 27 years old, and her former CAPE counselor is her personal mental health counselor to this day. So it's that our counselors form strong relationships with their students, and just support the work that we're all doing that is so greatly needed. And again, some of the programs, just to talk about a few of the specific programs that we do when we go into classrooms, are like the prevention series on substances. They support the health teachers, they follow the same guidelines as your health teachers. So like if it's alcohol month, we can come in and do a presentation on alcohol. You can do a presentation anytime you want. Just today, we had our community educator come in and do the vaping presentation. And I heard that the feedback was incredibly well received. And again, we do everything at an appropriate age level. So we would educate middle school different than we would educate high school. And, we just tweak a presentation and provide information. And, there is never pass judgment. There is no judgment. And again, our staff are highly skilled and highly trained, and usually trained in the month of August. And having an affinity for this district, it is absolutely my goal, if you accept the proposal with CAPE, to find you the best possible match for your district. And you become part of that process, for the record. So we would vet our candidates, we would interview them twice. And then when we were settled on one or two that we liked, we would bring them to you for the final interview, and we would make a final decision.
How does this work with?
Interesting.
That was very dramatic, wasn't it?
Yeah.
How does the CAPE counselor and our counselor work together? I mean, how do they stay in sync? And one's not pointing the student this way, and one's pointing the student in another direction.
So they have very different roles on many levels. So for instance, your school counselor, as we know, is academically focused more so. So the school counselor might hear something and get something and have a big caseload and say, you know what, I'm going to turn this over to the school counselor. And again, if it's substance use related or mild mental health issue related, a substance use issue within a family member, something like that, that's our expertise and focus. And again, we do not compete, we collaborate. And so there's just an open conversation about how you want this to work. And again, having worked with your people personnel staff here, I know how passionate they are and how amazing they are. And it would just be a wonderful working relationship. Again, we would find the right person that fit into the culture of the Millbrook School District and just work together. And it's very flexible, very flexible.
And then you guys would sit in, even if a student was struggling, not sure why they're struggling, your counselor would sit in to not only assess the child, but assess the family. Maybe there's a problem at home, That's,
So every case is going to be individual. So initially, so students can be self-referred, peer referred, administrative referred, teacher referred, parent referred. It's all going to depend on the situation. We do, again, follow confidentiality rules. So like if a student comes to self-referred or a parent even calls, the school administration is not necessarily going to know about those conversations, the actual confidential conversations, but they will get a monthly or bi-weekly list of the students being seen by the Cape counselor. Like that is not a secret, right? So that is an open conversation. Then the student, any student under whatever circumstances they show up at a Cape counselor, they are assessed, a brief assessment, and that further determines what the need is. So it might be that, let's say a student has a full-blown substance abuse problem. We'll refer out to, we have an entire network of outside referral services as well, besides in the school district. So they would refer to, say, a Lexington Center for Recovery. If it's a minor, dabbling, starting use, even just having questions about it, that's a conversation the Cape Council will have. But we have the same 3 conditions as any other type of counselor or school-based staff, whereas if someone said they were going to hurt themselves, someone else, or someone was hurting them, then that conversation is, I have to break confidentiality. So again, if there's many reasons they can come, and we have a myriad of resources and partnerships with almost every agency in this county. The Dutchess County Department of Behavioral and Community Health, Stabilization Center, the Hope Line, Astor, Lexington, we know everybody, and we all work together. And quite honestly, everyone comes to Cape. So there are some districts that have like Astor services in their districts for some mental health support. They will still come to Cape for the substance abuse piece, especially because, and again, it's just a wide problem, no matter where we're located, no matter what district it is, it's happening, and especially the vaping. So while vaping isn't necessarily a hardened illicit substance, nicotine is more addictive than heroin and is the most addictive substance out there to our adolescents and affects their brain in 10 seconds. So, it's vital, and we are the experts in the prevention education field for sure. We're constantly trained in new trends, new substances. We try to educate the community as readily as possible about all that and just bring you the best level of education we can.
What are the qualifications for your Cape counselor? Are they OASIS, CASACs? Are they mental
So they don't
health
have
counselors?
CASACs. They're all mental health, licensed eligible mental health counselors or social workers. In all honesty, I shy away from social workers. So they all require supervision from us, right? So they come here and they work for you, so that's another thing that's important to know. Once a month, they are not present in the school because they're at the Cape offices for a full day of group supervision. All of our counselors come together. We have a counseling supervisor who provides them with their training, their supervision, so to speak. They're, working towards those hours. So they come together once a month for group supervision, and they have weekly individual supervision with the school-based supervisor who is housed at our office and remote. She'll also come here to meet all administration. She can come here and meet with the counselor. They can do it hybrid by phone, however, but it's a regular weekly supervision. So again, they're mental health counselors, social workers, or like I said, even school counselors. So school counselors are not licensed, as you know, but they are certified and they have a very specific set of qualifications. And then we provide all these other intense trainings, like one is called substance abuse prevention skills training, strategic prevention framework training, which are the frameworks we use for educating our students and staffs. So they're highly vetted, and then they're fingerprinted through us. We do all that. They go through the justice system. And so we're really
training, I'm trying to wrap my head around I understand you have different facets of the training. Do you do grief and bereavement training, education with them?
I'm
The
sorry.
Grief and bereavement training?
So yes, I wanted to mention that. So you also mentioned gun control. So that is obviously becoming a very big issue. And the Wappinger School District just did a huge presentation, and we have a really strong partnership with them. So I spoke with the superintendent, and they are willing to share it with any other district that we want to bring it to. They did what I would basically call a see something, say something assembly for the youth, because like we all know the emergency protocol for getting out of the building and all of that, but like the emotional toll on students and what happens, you know, how all of this gun violence could have been prevented. They did this unbelievable presentation where they had like a mock shooting before it happened. And so they had this crazy video where everyone was saying, you know, like, oh, you know, my daughter won't be coming home today because but if I would have said something, you know, I saw that kid did that. So again, we have all kinds of, you know, that is a big push right now, is we're going to get extra training in, you know, response to grief and gun violence, and also the pre-training, like what do we, you know, how do we do? We also, as an agency, are doing post-vention training, which we're working on with the Dutchess County Department of Behavioral and Community Health, because this was a concept. I just went to a major training, and I lost like 4 days of sleep, like plotting and planning in my head, because I was blown away by it. Because again, it's another important part. While we're all always focused on the administrative and the legal and this and that, we have to think about the persons involved, the staff that is traumatized by any situation, the loss of a student, client, colleague, whatever it might be. So again, we are highly trained in all facets of mental health training, and some come into it with more training than others, or more expertise in a certain field. But we have a 2-week intensive training in August, where every day, all day, we're down doing, some is in person, some is hybrid, some is online altogether. But we, you know, constant training in everything, grief, LGBTQ issues, inclusiveness, new trends, everything you can imagine, you know, and there's a lot of new trends out there right now,
So most of the services are reactive. From the sounds of it, people come to them, kids come to them, teachers come to them. What about a proactive stance as far as, are they trained to like observe and identify?
Yes,
Students.
so I would actually disagree, because we have this conversation as preventionists a lot about reactive or proactive. And again, prevention is prevention, right? So there's like a big debate between recovery and prevention, if you think about it, right? Because if we could start prevention in elementary school, maybe we could prevent getting to the point of needing recovery or needing harm reduction measures to, you know, allowing for substance abusers to have clean needles and things like that, right? Some people look at that as prevention, but yeah, you're preventing maybe a communicable disease, but imagine we didn't have to get to that point. So we have all kinds of
I think I was
assessments.
more talking about on the mental health side. I understand the proactiveness on the drug and
No, I
alcohol, but
understand.
more on the mental health, just
But
identifying a
absolutely.
student that, you know, may need it, but may not stand out.
Well,
You know, they're
exactly,
trained
and
to kind
that's,
of
we
identify.
do brief intervention, so we have a lot of programs right now. One of them was currently being used up at the high school prior to the Easter break, Teen Intervene. This is actually free to the entire community right now, but our Cape counselors are always trained in Teen Intervene, and that is one of the main forms of assessment that they do. So that is a pre-assessment for mental health and substance use issues. There are many, there's the expert, there's all kinds. Also, we're introducing 2 new programs that both have pre-assessments and pre-post and interim assessments. And one of them is called Preventure, and it targets 4 personality traits that are contributors to mental health and substance use issues, and then works with the student to identify those traits and what interventions would work best. And then the other one which would be probably really appealing to this district because of your musicality for sure, is rock-in prevention, which again is aligned with CEL standards and is a music-based substance use and mental health, social emotional learning prevention program. And we are training our staff in early August in both of those, and they will be presented into the schools. And they can start at the kindergarten level straight through the high school level. And again, we always target our audience properly and provide the proper interventions at the proper age level.
And having counselor, I'm just struggling with the Cape counselors are focused on addiction, prevention, education. So, but if they see somebody that's in trouble some other way, they hand them off or they keep them, you know what
So
I
I
mean?
think if we think of it a little bit differently, where our school counselors they're basically like on the front lines, they work with all students. It's sort of like that universal treatment, right? Tier 1 kind of thing. There are some students who have more specific or maybe more intensive needs. We do have an Astor social worker who might see some of them, but there may also be a space, and I've seen this model work quite well in my previous district. There may be a space where the needs are more aligned, like Chrissy had said, whether it could be like substance use in the family, it could be, a student dabbling with self-medication themselves, right, because of what they're dealing with. Our counselors don't have that skill set. That's not what they're trained to do. But it can be a very soft handoff for those issues. And then working in tandem, through like the RTI team, Chrissy mentioned the child study team. We work here with the MTSS framework. So they would be attending those meetings, though they may not give the details about what it is a student is struggling with specifically. It may be helpful to integrate some of the skills they're working on with that student when they meet with them, right? So they're struggling with attendance or they're struggling with interactions with staff. This counselor may be able to give them some tools that may help with the academic or just the school-based needs in general.
Okay.
And then
That's a great description, Caroline. You just hit on the head. I was going to say, Perry, too, if I may. I started working with Cape in 1996 in Wappingers as an assistant principal. And we had a lady named Elaine Trumpetto who was unbelievable and plus had kids in the district. But they became like a central part of our guidance staff, had office space, but we used them. They were part of, admin meetings and support meetings. And along with the SRO, were a big tool at John Jay when we were dealing with nicotine, substance abuse, suicide, and a lot of other issues. Even with our vaping, a detector is only going to do so much, but a person helping someone make better choices and prevent it, and it prevents, it works into all the SEL, and then also the depression and the whole cycle of substance abuse. And I can tell you, Elaine passed away 2 years ago, but she was unbelievable. And I'm sure you know her, Chrissy, but she did a lot for John Jay and a lot for Wappingers. That's why Wappingers is where they are today with a lot of this, So I had that experience myself. And kudos to you guys, the organization. And I'm leaving, but I hope the decision is really made that you guys come into Millbrook and be a part of our team. I appreciate it.
thank you so much, and thank you for mentioning Elaine. So I do want to say, because I have to now that you brought her up, yes, there was nobody like Elaine. I came to Cape 4 years ago, and we kind of had a 3-hour-long interview because when I had first met Elaine, I met her here. She had come in to promote the Always program when I was interning with Denise Haynes. And I never forgot her. She was that kind of person. And 5 years later, I was still looking for a job and I saw the Cape position and I called her up and I said, do you remember me? And she never forgets a face or a name, and neither do I. And she said, oh yeah, come in and talk to me. And she clearly said in a conversation that she didn't hire school counselors because she lost them to districts all the time. And I was a school counselor, but I came in and I said, listen, I promise you, if you give me this opportunity, I'll do the right thing. And the rest was history. And she was outside of my family. She was the most important person in my entire life, and I dearly miss her. And when she first came to me and asked me if I wanted to be director, I said, no, thank you. I like what I do. I don't really want to do that. And in the end, I really had no choice because this agency came to mean as much to me as it meant to her. And while I can never fill her shoes, I will do my damnedest to try and to certainly continue the work that meant so much to her. And we need it now more than we ever did before.
So I know this
thank
is
you.
probably a, depends on what you want. What are we talking about as a price tag?
So we had discussed this a little bit. So there's a couple of different ways that this works. And unfortunately, because it's the end of the year and our latest OASIS contract was already written, what would happen is most of the school districts are supplemented by OASIS. So let's say the total amount was $60,000. Some districts are only paying 40 because OASIS gives us 20 per district. That didn't happen here yet. So we figure out a price based on inflation, paying a salary, all the fringe, the training, the technology, everything that we provide, and come up with a price. And so we did come up with a price for the district, and it's across the board. And I might add that a year and a half ago, we affiliated. When Elaine was dying, she was worried about Cape's security, and she thought it might be a good idea to affiliate with a larger agency. And while much of the board wanted to keep that agency affiliation somewhere in Dutchess, we ended up affiliating a year and a half ago with a Westchester-based agency. And it's been interesting. And the board is not particularly happy, so we are dealing with it, but we may be moving away from it. Regardless, we're still under some of the rules and workings of that affiliation. And so a lot of our prices, whereas Cape would do things differently, we have some oversight by Westchester. Regardless, we explained to her over and over again, as our board has as well, and our accountant, that this is Dutchess, it's not Westchester. So the number is approximately, it's actually not quite, but it's around 60,000. And again, that would be for a certain number of months till our next contract. And then it would be our goal to write Millbrook into that contract as well. And that would lower you by $15,000 to $20,000. And that's for full-time. So that's for full-time counselor. You also do have the option of a part-time counselor. That it would be harder on the counselor and the district, because already we would assume that they're going through both back and forth between both schools for a district like Millbrook, like they do in Dover and Hyde Park and Redham, right? So all around the same size districts, we have one counselor that goes between both schools. And it works, it does work, but the Wappingers district has like a full-time, like one full-time counselor in each school, including now the middle schools as well. So one between both middle schools. So you can consider, if you feel that the cost is too much, you can consider a part-time counselor. You can consider keeping them in one school or the other. And so you have those options as well. And that's all negotiable.
So it's 60,000 full-time and full school year.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, and can I just want to make two announcements quickly. So this week, in particular this month, we are hosting two major events. And also the Millbrook District is part of our Northern Dutchess Community Coalition catchment area. And Laura often attends those meetings. We haven't had any in a while because it's just been a crazy year. But we are hosting, we hosted a vaping prevention PSA contest, and we had 32 applicants across the Dutchess County Public School District. And I'm happy to report that there were many Millbrook participants, but the grand prize was a $500 grand prize. And then we had a first, second, and third prizes and honorable mentions. And the grand prize winner is from Millbrook's district. And I can't tell you her name right now because she doesn't know yet either. But it is a Millbrook student and it was just a beautiful piece of work. So we're very excited about that and very proud of the district. So,
Yeah.
and then there are a couple of others that are featured. So tomorrow night we're having a ceremony for, I felt that with so many entries, so besides the $500 grand prize, I think the draw was that on the 15th, next Wednesday, we are doing our second annual family movie night at the Overlook Drive-In. And we bring the entire county together. We hand out 250 bags of information on mental health and substance use, prevention and information. And we feature a movie, and the draw was that the winners, so there's 10 winners, 3 in each place, and the grand prize would be featured as the preview for the movie night. So there's flyers around the town, and I'll send them again digitally, but that's next Wednesday is the family movie night. So this student's work will be featured on that as well. But because we had so many entrants, we decided to have like a little event at Cape. So tomorrow night, we invited all participants, their families, and even health teachers, whoever would want to go representing their school is welcome to come to the Cape offices, and you all have those invitations. So, and then I also want to add that I met Raina 2 weeks ago when I was here, the nurse, and she agreed to be our health sector representative for the Northern Dutchess Community Coalition. So our partnership with this district is very important. I think, again, I have such an affinity for this district and the work that you do. But I think that the embedding of a Cape counselor, and I know that Carolyn can speak to the accolades of it too, and I know that Laura has seen the coalitions in action. And if you ask around, the community, everybody knows who Cape is, and it's just really important, supportive work. Again, it doesn't replace any services you have; it only supports them. And that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you so much, and good luck, and I'll see you all soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. You want to keep the old job description?
Sure. You'll see that this list, these bullet points here have a heavy lean on SEL student support and parent engagement. Support social emotional well-being of students by designing curriculum, instructional opportunities, targeting social emotional growth, co-chairs, the superintendent in the district culture and climate committee. I'm just going to choose a few. Family university and other such models. Promotes a school environment that is safe and conducive to individualized instruction, cooperative curriculum development, and student learning. And I know it's also, there's one piece in here to it's about ensuring that the code of conduct is consistent across buildings. That's what we heard a lot from parents and even the board, that working towards it. There are similarities, if not the same, in how we address and implement the code of conduct.
But shouldn't that be done, Laura, at a deputy or superintendent position, not as a assistant principal position? To devise that there is a code of conduct that's enforced across all the schools?
Sure, I mean, that's definitely a superintendent and deputy superintendent, but there's also, we need people who are boots on the ground, just making sure that they're supporting our principals, that we're supporting our school psychologists across the buildings.
So this one person would work in all our buildings and hopefully know every student by name. And boy, there's a lot of stuff for one person to do in every building. But okay, it's your presentation.
Well, also there's this committee, the district-wide culture and climate committee, but also that will fan out into climate and culture building committees. So it's sort of going to trickle down from a small group of people who are working district-wide, and then again, it will be building-based. And that's really what
But
that's,
every building, because you have in here that this person would be part of every committee, the emergency response team would be, basically, this person wouldn't have any kind of a day, except by, I guess, mandated, time off for lunch, get anything else done. I don't see how one person is gonna do every single building and then still do everything you've listed here. I'm playing devil's advocate.
I was wondering that myself when I saw district-wide. This is a great, thank you for outlining and all the detail, and it is a lot of work. I was wondering, how confident are you that one person could do this in all 4 buildings? Or would you want to focus on middle and high? Is there a need at this level in Alton and Allen?
so we all do this work all day, every day.
Yeah.
And so this is an additional support for the core team and the building principals. And so we need this person, this common thread, who's able to help guide, train, communicate with parents, help develop programming across the district. It may be heavier in the secondary for a while, but really, I feel that these committees, building committees, will be the boots on the ground piece. That this person is really orchestrating, coordinating, ensuring common language, common practices, age-appropriate events. But there are also teams within each building who are able to help with all of this work too.
Wouldn't a super principal be a better position? That way they're above all the other principals, under the assistant superintendent, so they then could weave their way over all the schools and all the committees and get the support they need from the principals in each building? I'm just throwing that out.
Yeah, and is it even a principle? I mean, principle to me goes with the building. This is more of like somewhere between an administrator and a counselor, right? I mean, they're supposed to be, I'm assuming this person, if someone says, I got bullied, this person runs it to ground. Like, no questions. It's here's the punishment, here's the whatever it is, or it really wasn't, follows up with the family, follows up with the staff. I mean, I'm assuming that's part of this person's responsibilities. And is principal really the right? And I know it's stupid to argue over titles, but principals to me have a specific place, and then, anyway. And is this tied together with the last presentation? Like this person, we're gonna get this person and get that person, and together they're gonna drive, this stuff.
So I kind of like what you're saying, in so much as, when you're looking at a district-wide assistant principal, you're looking at someone, with a building level certificate, right?
Right.
That's more of an entry-level admin position. What you're describing above principals and coordinating with PPS staff and coordinating with, any outside agency type thing that we would have in the district, you're going to be looking for a different skill set and a different administrative level. And we're going to have to pay at a different level to have someone come in and do that. Is there value in what you're saying? Sure. I think there's a different leverage point, right? When it comes with some kind of, supervisory position.
But these positions, especially this position, I don't personally, I don't want to see this person sitting at a desk. They should be on the move all the time. The students down there, I haven't talked to this one in 12 hours. I haven't been over here. That one seemed to have a problem. I better go over here. this, and I mean, I'm not saying they can't have a chair someplace, but
Gotta have
I
rules.
don't think they should be, doing administration. They should be looking at, take all the kids, prioritize. These are the ones I think, that this is the one that she told me I need to talk to. Counselors have told me to talk. So I've got all the students, prioritized. I've got all oh, this one was vaping. This one had her cell phone out. This one had his, whatever, bullied somebody. Taking those things and prioritizing them. I mean, that's the kind of work we're looking for, right?
Yeah, so it's gonna change some of the responsibilities on the admin side of this. I know there's another slide that listed some of those. If you're talking about somebody at that type of, I don't know what you would call it, level, where they have more of that type of district responsibility, then they're not gonna be dealing with low level discipline. That's going to be something where they're going to be dealing with more of the curriculum development, organization, implementation, more of the accountability piece. And they're not likely going to be the one who is then disciplining students, right? They're going to be building
Yeah.
programs. They're going to be working with families, doing outreach. They're going to be coordinating activities within the school to bolster programs that may already exist or bring in programs that don't yet exist but have value.
But I would think they would also be, this person did this and was given this punishment. Is that consistent with everything else we do in the district? I don't think this person needs to run around and say, I caught you vaping, here's 2 days, that's not that kind of person. But it's somebody that should be able to say, somebody did this in Alden, it's too far, but in Alden, and somebody did it in the high school. Are the punishments that were given out, are they commensurate with what it
Right.
says in our guidelines?
Right, and I think that that's where the level of data study and then reviewing that type of information, having conversations about expectations, what they look like. So when you mentioned before the deputy or the superintendent, yeah, it's our job to work with the code of conduct that exists, but not in the realm of actual implementation and daily application, right? So that is a role of the building level, even the way that it's written there, we want to, assign dispositions for, behavior. And I think that that's something that this person could, it depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for.
In
boots
a
on the
different
ground.
world, when I was in school, okay, and I'm talking different century. We had, the middle school had a dean, the high school had a dean. We were also principal and assistant principal. So the dean is what dealt with any disciplinary and dealt with the student. So I understand what you would like at the other level and what Perry is talking about, which would be great on, if we had anything we wanted, would putting deans, 2 deans at the price of 1, whatever, a higher level help. Well, we don't need a dean here in this middle school. We just need a full-time dean in a disciplinary dean in the high school. I don't know. I'm just kicking things around.
So I think we need to be careful when we talk about the deans of yesteryear and the deans of now. They are not the same, right? And they don't have the same legal,
Laws.
right? So they can't legally perform the same tasks. So they can deal with low-level disciplinary incidents, but it doesn't take any of the burden of things that might result in like an ISS or an investigation that has to be administrative. They are not administrative, right? Here, they're not administrative. So that's something that we have to keep focused on. An assistant principal doesn't take away the responsibility of a principal as the suspending authority in a building. So if there's an out-of-school suspension, that's going to be their responsibility still, no matter what, right? But they do have a little more laterality in what they can investigate, what they can assign consequences and.
So we're playing with titles, but we want to use titles that SEP allows to do certain things, certain sign-offs, which of course the principal is the head sign.
And they would always be in there. Right?
But I get nervous when I hear, she's gonna have a counselor in here, then we got counselors, we got deans, thanks, Howard. Assistant principals, those, when things get separated out like that, it's easy to drop something. Oh, yeah, I said, don't ever do that again. Okay, and everybody, and then suddenly the parents are in here yelling at us about how come nothing was done. I think what I would like to see, and, again, this is really more for board input. I'd like to see, like, let's say we go with that, and we go with, forget the title, it's a, super elastic vice principal. I went to school in that generation too. I have a super elastic fellow. What I'd like to see is, okay, this just happened. What happened? Who does what? This kid just pushed that kid over the table or called that kid something horrible. All these people, I would assume, have some, is it drug related? Is it, I think that child is having trouble at home. Who does it go to? How does this assistant principal or whatever we're going to call it get involved? Because I'm worried that if we keep just putting people, we're still going to lose things. We're going to drop them in the, and who's supposed to, people are going to try to resolve something, and maybe it's not really their responsibility to resolve it. The more we put more people, and I don't disagree. I think we are running way under on people to do all this stuff. Even the AS that you were talking about before. I mean, it's just out of hand. But I want to make sure we're not just throwing, let's get another 3. Throw them in there. Did it fix it? No. How about another 2? We need to make sure that what we're doing is building an organization that's going to change this place, move it forward, move it in a different direction.
Yeah, and I think some of that is putting the people on the bus in right positions, right? And some of it is allowing enough people to carve out time where we can have those conversations to talk about like the consistency between the buildings, talk about be able to bring back to the board, hey, this code of conduct, the way it's written, you may need to look at it. It's really not serving its purpose. And this, vaping has all of a sudden become, even more so than it's ever been, right? So being able to have conversations is next to impossible because every building has a principal who's a chief cook and bottle wash. There is nobody else to do some of this stuff. So they get pulled when we try to have these conversations to be able to, be aligned and collaborate or calibrate and collaborate around any of it, right?
That's what summer's for, right? When there's nothing else to pull people on vacation.
Except for the summer school programs and building a master schedule.
So if you can, first of all, look to see if there's some other way to describe this position, whether it's higher or lower, other than an assistant principal, because people look and they go, you got 900 kids here in 4 buildings. You got 4 principals. You got an assistant superintendent, you got a deputy superintendent, you got a superintendent. Why do we need another, like an assistant principal? It needs to be clear, and I hate to say it, but people just look at that title and go, oh, wait, which one of the principals can't do their job, needs an assistant, right? It needs to describe to people from the very beginning what this is and why this is, like, we're trying to go after the issues that have been put before us. And then just a little more of, here's the day-to-day duties. Here's the longer term duties. Like the last presentation, there was a lot of discussion about presentations and education, which is cool. But while they're doing that, they're not hitting the students, you know, and I think we've got to put more focus on that, but.
Yeah, and I mean, I do just want to point out that this position did exist until the 17-18 school year.
Who's the,
Stephen,
It's an assistant superintendent position.
oh, right, well,
And so that, when that was pulled, that added more to the plates of the principals.
But it wasn't district-wide, was it?
yeah,
I
I
thought it was
mean,
just middle and high.
it was,
Right.
but, yeah, I mean, he ended up in every
theory it
building,
was.
yeah.
Right, okay, all right.
all right, yeah, I mean, unless anybody else has any, I mean, I'd like to just see more detail on how this is gonna work together. And specifically, what's it gonna cost? I mean, is this person grant material, like, can we get this person on a grant? Can we get that other thing on a, you know, that other
Yep.
program on a
We
grant?
can.
Then we need a grant writer, right, because we gotta write somebody grants.
COVID funds, keep spending COVID funds.
I'm right
They keep
here.
printing money, we keep spending.
Okay,
It's COVID money, it's title, our ESSA money, that we're able to do this and to, it's an opportunity.
yeah,
Definitely an opportunity to really focus on our social emotional piece.
Is I'm thinking of recruitment, right, being able to find the right person. Again, the job description, responsibility, duties are, it's very detailed to me. Without I mean, 2 weeks ago, there wasn't a district-wide assistant principal, just, it talked about, it was just, you know, the sort of secondary title. To me, it doesn't matter the title. I think it's important to be able to attract the right person. So are you going to attract the right person more so with the assistant principal title or without it?
Well, I think that's the confusing thing, right? So if we want this person to be able to do any administrative things, they're going to have an administrative certificate.
Okay.
So that's the piece, right? I think that if we put SEL coordinator out there, that is not, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, HR guy, that is not an administrative title.
Certainly
So,
more ambiguous.
right,
Right,
so
you're not gonna get it.
it's hard to know what you call it. I think everybody knows what an assistant principal is in, you know,
Yeah.
in name. And it's a building level certificate that you're looking for, so to speak, right? When we get into the district level certificate, a lot of times that comes with a much higher price tag.
Unless candidates.
But
Or
this
maybe
role
like-
wouldn't eventually move to a principal.
It could.
I mean, it could, but it's not.
Yeah, there's
really
nothing
right.
that says that it has to.
I know, but just assistant principal, that makes it sound like the next step would be principal.
Right, but we would, but maybe not here,
Not
right?
here.
So if there was a
You're right.
principal's position open, we would canvas, like, we would always be looking for the best person. And I have to tell you honestly, having been an assistant principal and having been a principal, they're very different responsibilities. The jobs are very different. And not everyone who's an assistant principal aspires to be a principal. Sometimes they really like that connection with students. And, you know, doing a lot of this and on the ground coaching and not necessarily some of the other pieces that are the responsibility of a principal. So,
Depending on the individual.
yeah.
But I'm mostly worried about, you get a principal, I'm not saying, I know Tom's looking at me. I'm not saying anybody who's still currently here. I'm saying, once you're retired down the road, you join your retirement someplace, say you bring in somebody else that all of a sudden just says the assistant principal would like some information and there's a pecking order problem. I don't want to give it to whoever replaces whoever is the next principal. And then the has to go back up the chain of command to say, you're not cooperating with. So I've seen it done before, anytime you get into this title. And I'm sure you've seen some.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to the quality of the individual playing the role, right?
All the individuals,
Sure.
not just.
If I have confidence that this person is going to execute, then I'm absolutely gonna pass things off because that allows me to then focus on something else. that I
Every
need to
body plays nice in the sandbox, as we know.
Right. And sometimes that requires coaching up and sometimes that requires coaching out.
I'll say it one more time. I just don't want to see us just somehow generally adding another layer of administration. Because that's what, if we just go and say, okay, now we're adding an assistant principal, people are gonna go, wait a minute, holy crap, how many layers do you have to get before you get to a teacher? You know, so think about the title, think about not only the title, but the description of the job, and make sure that there's nothing ambiguous. There's nothing that, you know, is gonna turn out to be, well, it used to be that guy doing it, but now, you know, this person's gonna do it.
Can we create our own technical title that has pieces through SED of certain certifications? Say we use the certification through SED for an assistant principal, but then call it something else in district. See, this is where you need somebody.
Yeah, this is a Julie question, someone from Shaw, but what I can tell you is there's two types of administrative that do this kind of work. There's two types of administrative certificates. There's a building level and a district level. There's the school, district, building, business. The one that
We
makes
wouldn't want
me
to.
sweat because I don't like numbers. There's that one. But as far as these go, it's a building level or a district level. I think where we would have to be more specific is the area of tenure for the person. Would be where we need to be more specific.
All right.
So it would come down to, do we want it to be a building level certificate person or district level?
Got it. Thank you, Mr. Educator.
Yeah, and it just needs to, like I said, it needs to run like a well-oiled machine. Nobody should be sitting there going, I wonder if I'm supposed to do that, or if that person's supposed to do that, or maybe that's part of that thing. We need to make sure that, you know, there's an issue comes up, it goes here, it goes here, it goes here. Here's the aftermath. Here are the people that are reviewing it and bringing it to the board. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so that begs the conversation of, are we looking to get someone who's a veteran with experience who can drive some of this, right?
Yeah.
Who would the person report to?
I think it depends on if it's an assistant principal and we're talking building level or now this other conversation that's just letting.
More research needs to be done.
Well,
What the title is, yeah.
think it just, like I say, rethink it, think it through, come back in and say, you know, especially because one of the things we're gonna need to know is, you know, on this Cape thing, we need a little more than, you know, it's bigger than a bread basket. And if we're gonna bring in, if this is a district-wide assistant principal, which means it's sort of a different, you know, a higher I don't know. Then what's the range on that? So we can, we also need to have Kevin look at it.
Sure. And shifting back to Kate, since Perry brought it up, we need to know when is the window open that we could apply for to get this $20,000 or, you know, when do they normally start doing these contracts that we either we didn't think about it, but to get in part early enough, or because just to take $20,000 taxpayer money and just, you know.
It's title money. We're using title money to pay for the Cape.
All right, but it's still an extra 20,000 where we wouldn't be paying it if we would have got the contract in during their open contract.
So the agreement that we've just sort of been discussing is a person all day, every day in our schools for $50,000. And then she said over time, it will decrease. But she.
Right, once they're open.
Yeah,
Okay.
and she's submitted an agreement and just anticipation and preparation for this conversation, I sent it up to our attorneys for review to see if there's anything that was
All right,
layering.
so
Yep.
there'll be,
So we're
there'll be
very-
another conversation.
Yeah, we're positioned well, if this is the direction that we want to go.
No, it's a great thing, but again, I don't like spending extra money,
Agreed.
whether it's coming straight out of our budget or coming out of, grant, when we don't have to. When we didn't have to, let's put it that way.
Right, and then we have to decide if we want to wait for the services, right? So we're gonna wait for that next opportunity to save money. What are we missing out on in the next?
Correct,
however
that's a
many
tough,
months?
and that's a tough choice, but it needs to be held because we're all sworn to do cheery, duties.
But then, I mean, that really comes back to, you guys come back, we really think this needs to be, do it while I'm out of the room. We really think it needs to be this position, needs to do this, this, and this. We need to hire this person by the end of July or by the first day of school. We need to get this other program going where, if we start now, we can take advantage of something. We need to get a little plan laid out that here's how here's how we're gonna go from now till the first day of school.
Howard mentioned dean of student. Do we have a dean of
You know,
student?
part-time dean of student.
Who is that? And what is he doing? Because I mean, I don't mean to be so harsh, but,
Yes, you're right. What is-
no, I mean, we've been talking about this, these issues since April 5th, and it's the first I've heard. And
You
what's his,
can explain that.
what's his role, or, I don't.
Yeah, so he is part-time dean of students, part-time athletic director.
Uh-huh.
So he can deal with low-level discipline, he can deal with academic eligibility issues, he can deal with interventions for attendance and whatnot. His role is limited by what it is. He is part of the teachers union, so he is not an administrator.
High school only.
No, he's between the two.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Is he doing those things, or I know you said he can do, but is he? he's-
No, that's
he's
what he
involved with
does,
that
yeah.
stuff?
So whenever there's like 5-week progress reports and report cards when they come out, he meets with all the students who are on the academic like at-risk list or ineligible, meets with all of them. Anytime they run attendance reports, he meets with students who are high risk, not attending or something. And sometimes, he'll meet with them with the principal or them with the counselor. If there's other things going on that, require intervention. Sometimes students just don't come to school and he meets with, them maybe by themselves. So it all depends on what the situation is, who he is bringing into the fold. He can also do sort of the first level of like an investigation of some disciplinary incident, but has to pass it off if it's an incident that rises to the level where it needs administrative intervention.
So again, we should have, as part of those, here's how it's all gonna work, is we have a dean of students, part-time, but we have a dean of students. How is that person gonna work with that group, with this new person, who's gonna be the first contact? Just so that, again, you don't want Al trying to resolve something that really shouldn't be in his bailiwick.
And I know when we originally took the two items prior to Al, when I first got on board years back, it was because the AD position was not full-time. It was to make a whole package together. If necessary, I'm sure we could figure out a way either to pay with the dean or the title and fund him full-time. I'm sure there's a way we could do this as a board where we don't have to have a part-time dean if we need full-time people.
Right, I guess I was thinking with this new position, what do we need? A dean of students.
And I'm sure we could fund Al at what he's being paid without throwing this title.
Yes.
But if the answer is yes, like that we do still need students, if we get this other position, then what we need to see is what is the dean of students doing that then, goes to this new district-wide assistant principal. All right. Okay. Let it, Laura?
Do you want more?
I have one question about the climate survey. Did that get put together? Did it go out? Do we?
Not yet. We're
Okay.
working on that. We're gonna get that out. And it's only it's gonna be short, like we.
Is it anonymous? Like when it just popped into my head before that, and I'm assuming that's what this is to kind of gauge where the kids are. If we made it anonymous, but asked them to put what grade they're currently in, like that, would that, because I'm not sure what we're all gonna put in the climate survey, but I'm just thinking that if kids wanted to say something, they don't want their name associated, but I'll tell you I'm in, 10th, 11th, 12th grade, and this is how I answer, but I don't want to give you my name, even though, no other kids will see it or something like that. There's just a thought. You don't have to answer right
Oh, I
now.
wasn't sure. So the climate survey is the child, each child at middle and or just district level. I mean, it
Yeah,
would be
so
comfortable at once, but
it
someone
may
would
just
have
be,
to have
I guess it would be a conversation with elementary, is it conversations with children? It could be electronic for a certain age and up. If we're talking about pre-K and 1. 2.
If possible, it's again, time and, what can you do for the year? National online survey is easier for you guys, but I think you would get better information if it's truly about assessing each student, something in person. But yeah.
Yeah, well, I didn't know if it was online or in person. I mean,
If it is a survey, then,
Yeah, you run the risk though, if it's anonymous, you run the risk of, I'll tell you, and
Yeah.
just stuff that is completely out of control.
well, I thought maybe,
Or if you put their names in, then are they actually gonna tell you the truth because they don't?
Right.
want to? So
or if you
it's kind
didn't
of
have them fill it out, just if it was like, choose A or B, like I feel safe in school, or I'm having trouble at home, like whatever the questions are, they don't fill in a bunch of answers, but it's just, I'm in 9th grade. I love all my teachers, all my, make it very broad, or not broad, but where they can try to answer, I don't feel safe in school. I do feel safe in school. I'm, I don't know if you want to ask if they identify as,
but I mean, part of that is to then help.
Right, that's true, that's true.
Help someone, right?
So you want to get more
Yeah.
honest answers with, if it's anonymous, but then how do you address? Or unless it says on the bottom, I would like to be contacted, or I don't know.
Yeah,
And Elliot really tracked that person down.
I think that we need to be clear about what the goal of this particular climate survey is.
Yeah,
Is it to identify students who need intervention, or is it to look holistically
Well,
at where we are, right?
Yes, I mean-
Because I know that the Oldest program that Laura was talking about before, they do a survey at the beginning-ish of their program, but they do mandate that students have a 6-week span of time when they're in school before they do it. For continuity, for experience, right? So they're measuring something. And one of the other things that we have through Branching Minds is an SEL screener, which is going to hone in on all of those individual concerns. I feel safe at school. I have a trusted adult I can talk to. And that will come back, that will require parental consent because it is a screener. And that will also come back to an individual student where we can then create tiered interventions for them. So, I think we need to be clear about what is the goal of the survey. Is it to just get a baseline of where are we in the district?
My recommendation was, here we're almost in the school year, but was a more immediate, but, was on the individual case, identifying individuals, but I think a global search, to me, those are two different things.
Well, maybe not. I mean, yes, your goal is holistically, you want to get where we are. But if someone does put a comment in that's really troubling, you almost want to be able to go back and they talk to that student, or, you know what I mean? So it
Right.
could go both ways.
And I don't know that legally, and we would have to look into this, that we should even be asking questions that would raise extreme red flags in
Well,
a
you
broad
feel safe in
survey.
school.
Right,
You know,
so
that
yeah,
could
something
open up-
like that, but a
It's a
broad
yes, no, maybe
survey.
not. But
Right, but a broad survey like that without parental, because these are
Right.
not intended to be passive consent either. They have to be an active consent because.
So it's just yes or no type of.
Right.
Okay.
And it's really just identify patterns and trends. And maybe it is by grade or by school, so at least we know where to target. And then OVS will be more targeted.
Yeah, and there's a longer baseline there.
Yeah.
I get that,
Yeah.
right? They're gonna have this longer baseline. So if you're looking at trying to, as you're waiting for that to kick off, take some of the parameters, similar parameters of the old AS and do something, district led in the meantime. Is where I was going with it.
And we had spoken possibly certain grades, maybe those grades that are moving on to another school, such as the 5th grade or the 8th grade, right? Or, and seeing if we can, that could be sort of the place to start more of those individual quick conversations or targeted groups, targeted students, just a check-in, how you doing, how you feeling?
I was just assuming they were gonna be, I was assuming they were gonna be all anonymous with the surveys. And again, they do them on paper or with the Chromebooks or whatever. In Wappingers, we used to do it and do it right on the Chromebooks, right on the computer. It was anonymous. But I just thought all more like class courses for college level when professors are rated or stuff like that. It usually gives more freedom to people to express the truth with being anonymous. And I thought we were just going in that direction anyway. So maybe I was just assuming that. I'm surprised that we're even having a discussion on whether it's anonymous or they put their names down or optional. But I don't know. I thought we'd get more with just leaving it open for the kids and not to give a name. We would have more sincerity, honesty, and integrity, to be honest with you.
Well, I think it goes back to Caroline's point is if you do it anonymous and what you're trying to do is find the kids that are at risk, you're not going to do it because you don't.
Yeah.
So it comes back to what are you trying to?
Like what perspective? Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So when does this survey get finished and get sent?
Next week.
All right. Anything else? Caroline, you wanna-
Sure, I will be for the first time ever.
I've heard that.
So some of this is gonna sound familiar. We have the IXL end of year snapshot window that has been open. This will provide us the end of the year marks for our growth over time data in the areas of math and ELA. We'll be meeting as an administrative team on Thursday to go over our data verification for some of the state reporting that we need to do. That will be led by our supervisor of data analytics, Victoria. We're also planning a very robust Eureka math training for the fall. There will be teacher support that will be provided directly by Victoria Curry, who is a Eureka math trainer. She's got a pretty amazing Google Classroom that she's building for that. So she's very excited for the opportunity to be able to work with the math teachers on the first math curriculum revision in quite some time. So that's pretty exciting.
Nicely done, Caroline. I knew you could read mine.
So we've also begun planning for an SEL book study on the text permission to feel, which aligns with the Yale Word program. It's the work of Dr. Mark Brackett. Additionally, we have started accepting applications for summer mini grants, and they've been trickling in so far with some really exciting topics. Some of them around the curriculum focus and the math, some of them around writing or Gillingham curriculum, and some others that are unique and are very specific to what those staff members do. We've also finished processing our applications for our Summer Scholars Program. We're now accepting staffing applications. We'll be looking to appoint our staff for that at next board meeting. We have 39 students participating this summer, so it's fairly consistent with the past couple of years, which is, you know, exciting that we're keeping the numbers higher than they have been prior to that. I'm reminding again, parents of students with disabilities, if you received that survey about parent communication, please fill it out. We get disaggregated results only. We will not see anybody's individualized results, but it is a requirement from the state, and it also helps us to improve our practices. We did conduct this same exact thing during our COVID year, and unfortunately, we didn't have high enough participation to qualify for the state results, so we have to repeat it. Through program analysis, we have been able to identify those students who will fit nicely in an 811 program here in the district for next year. So we're super excited that we'll be opening that program and bringing students back from out of district programs to be able to be here, you know, with our district students. So that's really exciting for us. I did explain just how busy the PPS office has been over the past, you know, 8 months or so. You know, I can only say thank you to the folks who work in my office. They work tirelessly to just get the job done. But to be honest with you, Elliot said the other day, this is like Grand Central Station. And truly it is like Grand Central Station. There's files coming in, files coming out. Folks in there all the time just for meetings, for consultation, for reviewing documents and whatnot. So it's busy, but we are continuing to plug away. I do want to make a very special shout out to one of our in-district nurses, Sarah Wirtz, had an amazing save last week. We had a student who called, well, the parent called Sarah Wirtz and explained some medical issues their child was experiencing over the weekend. They had been to urgent care. The child's symptoms were not improving. And Sarah, listening to the symptoms and recognizing some of the warning signs, was able to stress to the parent how incredibly important it'd be that the child be seen again by a physician. And sure enough, Sarah was right, and her skills and knowledge that she applied in this case literally saved the student's life. The student was in a medical crisis. So, you know, I think sometimes we overlook the unsung heroes in our district, and our nurses are phenomenal. And this is just one example. So I do want to publicly recognize her because that was an amazing save, and the student is okay and will be returning to school.
That's great.
So
That's really great.
yeah, very good. And then just to review, we had administrative, as an administrative team, we hosted Family University. There was low community participation, but the presenters were great. They, you know, I think they were well received, and the information provided for the community members who were in attendance was absolutely informative, and I think, you know, delivered in a way that allowed it to be accessible by all audience members. On June 3rd, we celebrated our middle school students at the annual award ceremony, and then today we had our high school underclass awards. So congratulations to all of those students who were honored. As Laura had said, we've had an extremely rigorous few weeks of interviews and demo lessons, and we've selected some really awesome candidates to fill our vacancies here in district. We're super sad to see our veterans that were here with us tonight. We're super sad to see them go. Some amazing professionals. You know, and they'll never be replaced, but we definitely have some really, you know, quality individuals that we're adding to our Millbrook family. And then we did have a second grade trip to the tribute garden that got some rave reviews. So very exciting stuff happening. And that's what I have for you.
Cool. Very good. Thank you, Caroline. All right, let's see what we got next. You do it?
Okay. I'll also be brief. A lot of this is just continuations of things we've talked about in the past. So our voice over IP phone conversion project is underway. Elm Drive's phones have already been upgraded. We've started with partial upgrades here at the middle school and at the high school. I want to thank John and his team for helping out. There's a physical installation component and a programming component. So John's guys have been hanging mounts and getting all the prep work done for our team. Sean Schock and our instructional technology department is really driving this project with the support of our Dutchess BOCES partners. BOCES has sent staff here multiple days over the last couple of weeks, and they're going to continue working through the rest of this week. And our hope is, or our intent is to have all of our phones upgraded and the servers and the network that supports them all upgraded by the end of the school year. We will be finishing up and doing the final submission of our district technology plan, our digital equity survey as mandated by the state by the end of the month. Thank you to the voters who supported our budget. It's time for me to go shopping. So we're already looking at our hardware replacements for next year. Now with the budget passed, we know what kind of numbers we're dealing with. And we're looking forward to upgrading, keeping our replacement cycle in line with what we started 2 years ago with the board support when we were forced to go with our one-to-one initiatives for students. So just as a reminder, our intent is to keep our student devices on a 4-year life cycle where a student receives a new device every time they promote to another building. So they'll have use of a touchscreen tablet for kindergarten, for pre-K and kindergarten, and then a flip standard clamshell Chromebook for 1st and 2nd grade. They get a new device at 3rd grade when they go to Alden. They get a new device at 6th grade when they come to the middle school. And they get a new device at 9th grade that carries them through their high school years. So we're so far so good. We're able to, the numbers are on our side. We're able to keep that rolling replacement cycle going. To truncate that from what was a 7 to 8 year replacement cycle pre-COVID is pretty significant.
Question for you, Elliot.
Yes, sir.
Say the high school, the 8th grade moving to 9th grade, get a brand new.
Yes, sir.
Well, it's supposed to last them till they graduate. What do we do when they graduate with the existing?
So as of right now, those devices are returned to what we call attic stock or loaner stock. So that when a student, anytime a student can damage a Chromebook and we have enough inventory to just hand them a new device that day. It's not brand new, but it's functional. Unfortunately, what we're seeing is the hardware providers, the Dell and Asus and all of these big companies, they're not making them to last us.
Right.
Google themselves is ending what they call their support cycles in a shorter window. So right now we're seeing devices that used to last 7 to 8 years lasting 5 to 6 years. So with a 3 to 4 year replacement cycle, we get another year or two out of that device by and large. I mean, they don't all come back in great shape, or we have enough back in stock to keep that.
Only, I'm bringing, the reason I asked is because it came to my attention that Our Lady of Lourdes High School, when they go into 9th grade, obviously, they get a new book, Chromebook, that's loaded with all the Our Lady of Lourdes stuff like ours here. And then it's, of course, this is public and OLL is private. So when they graduate now, OLL is allowing them, giving them a code to wipe up everything and allowing them to keep the book because it's so technologically old. And I'm wondering now, dealing with public monies, I'm wondering if we would possibly look at the possibility, as this is a board discussion down the road, if we would surplus the books and then allow the graduates to keep them. Now, not this year, because we haven't discussed this, but this would be in future years. That way it's surplus. Some students, if they go on to college, will have use of it. If they don't, that's fine. They would still have use of the book. We have a way of clearing everything off. As long as it's surplus, we can get rid of the book. And that way, what I'm trying to say, it's a nice way of gifting to our students. And even though it's an old computer, it's also a way of having them take better care of it throughout those 4 years. So there is 2 ways to look at it. It's cost effective and because it's yours at the end, it's surplus. So I'm just wondering what your thought of that is.
So I've looked into it. A couple other districts do similar things. There is some legal things, like you said, surplus, right? So we would access it legally. At 4 years old, it probably still has what we would consider some residual value, and we would want to monetize that. So here's an example. What some districts have done is either through the PTO or their endowment, like MEF, for example, would do for us is they assign a nominal value. So they say at 4 years old, the Chromebook is worth $10. And, either the PTO or MEF would donate that $10 to the district and effectively they buy the book from us.
Right.
So that we're operating above board financially. Legally.
Correct, and then it would be a gift from MEF. That's something that I think that we should. Not that
I'm volunteering MEF's money.
No, but it's something that we could explore, because I kind of think that's a nice, it's a nice gift for especially students that don't have a computer or the money to go out and buy a brand new.
And just speaking to your comment about fiduciary responsibility, it would diminish our stock a little bit, but not every student would take it. So if the board is interested in exploring that option, I can work a proposal up for the machinations, and then we can.
Something to look at in the fall.
Yeah, maybe Kevin can even help with looking at how much is the depreciated value is left.
Yeah,
Because I thought last I had to do this nonsense, it was like 2.5, 3 years, and they were just zero.
Well, here's the other tricky part. They're not our assets. They're not just BOCES assets.
Right.
So we would have to partner with BOCES to identify that. We do buy them through BOCES to get a discount.
Right.
So it would be us acquiring the asset from BOCES, and then I'm not sure how they depreciate it, straight line or if it's amortized.
Yeah, I'm sure we're not the only district that has one of this, so we'll find out how others have done it, and instead of trying to reinvent the wheel. Okay, thank you.
So that's really the IT side, and again, there's other things that we're looking to purchase. We're looking to upgrade some of our classroom instructional technology display boards and things like that. So we'll be piloting some different versions of that technology and seeing what works best before we roll out a major initiative. From the facility side, I know Mr. Mullins is here, so he's going to speak a little bit more in detail of what's been going on. But I do want to thank John. It's been a crazy month. For those that have been watching the weather, sometimes our temperature swings are 40 degrees plus from night to day. So John has not only been juggling heating systems with volatile fuel prices, but also sometimes in the same day, heating the buildings up and then cooling them off in the afternoon, where we go from 45 degrees to 75 degrees within a matter of 6 hours. So I just want to thank John for his daily attention to all of our building systems. And the support staff that's been helping him make sure our exhaust fans work, our air conditioning works, and sometimes the heat still works in the same day. So it's been a bit of a challenge, but our team has been really, really on top of it. And John also personally led the foundational work for the new Elm Drive playground. So we have some video or visual evidence of John working that day out in the field with our contractors and our support staff. So really thanking John for his leadership there. And our summer work planning is underway. So John and I have been in discussions for different ways to approach our summer cleaning in preparation for the fall. He's got some great ideas. We're going to support that. We've got some vendor supports as well to help us get this place a nice, good scrub down and get some deferred maintenance projects taken care of. And we're excited to have you folks see what that looks like as we move through the summer. The other thing I just want to remind the board, we are going to be putting out service contracts. So one of the things that Laura and Kevin did help us with in our budget planning for next year is to really allocate money for third-party contractors to do some heavy lifting for us. So John and I put together some estimated numbers, and I will be issuing contract bids for servicing mechanical work for boiler and heating plant and ventilation plant work, boiler and breach cleaning, which is a separate contract for the same type of equipment just to clean and maintain it. We're going to be doing an electrical contractor bid, a plumbing contractor bid, and a sewer and septic pumping bid if we need it. So this is just bids to put on the street to have vendors available. And I'm sure you've probably heard John mention when when we don't have a contract, we're not the priority customer. And we want to be the priority customer as often as possible. So when we have a need, we want people to respond immediately. And I'll be putting those contracts out to bid for the next fiscal year. So at some point in one of our summer board meetings, we'll be bringing those to the board to award. And again, you're not awarding anybody any money, just the opportunity to spend money when we need it.
Yes, just like a homeowner. If you don't have the contract and you need it, you're going to the bottom of the list. So
that's good.
Getting it done the right way, getting it maintained the right way, instead of not the right way. You have no idea how happy that makes me.
Well, we're looking forward to making some really positive adjustments. On the capital construction side, we have already initiated the filings for phase 2 of our high school secure vestibule project. That is our capital outlay project for next year, our 100K project. I had an initial meeting with the architects. This is Bernier Carr, or BCA, is our previous architectural firm. They're going to finish this out for us. We've already started looking at all the detailed work of what needs to happen to make this as robust as we want it to be to keep our kids safe. We will be closing the Elm Drive project incomplete, and that is pending a revisit of that scope with our overall conditional assessment work with our new firm, BBS. And so to speak to that point, we have scheduled BBS to come to our next board meeting on June 21st to present a summary of their findings. So I'll be co-presenting with the members of the principals of the firm to go over our timeline that we talked about back in September, October, right? I want to just kind of update the board and the community with where we are. We were a little bit delayed, but we are still able to be on track with our overall intent of a vote next year. That work, so they're going to come in and they're going to present a summary of what we think are the most immediate concerns. We're going to put some numbers to that, and those are going to be pure construction cost numbers. And then I'm going to add what I think is a conservative escalation. So when the building condition survey work is done, they give us a pure construction cost. So they're going to say that this item costs $200,000. That's dollars to the contractor to do the work. We know that projects cost more than just dollars to the contractor. So we'll provide some escalation to give the board more of a general sense of that $200,000 project might actually be like $275 all in. When you think about legal fees, architectural fees, filing fees, and all the other things that go along with it. So we're going to try to give the board a rough idea of what our general construction costs would be to address all of our immediate needs. And then what the all-in price might look like. And it's not to give anybody sticker shock, but just to kind of illustrate the depth of need. And what I intend to share is really those things that are going to be rated as approaching end of life in the next 3 to 5 years. So, or sooner. Hopefully not too many things on the sooner list. But again, as we move into the fall, we really want to dovetail the information gathered now with our strategic planning initiative to understand the direction of program need. If we're going to look to open up walls and ceilings before we close them back up, we should really take another look at what we're going to use that room for in every single building throughout the district. So that's going to be partnership with all of our instructional leaders, and our teachers, and all the folks that live in our buildings every day to understand how we want to use our buildings in the future and really align that with the district's mission and vision as it evolves through the strategic planning process. So I'm excited about that work. That's all going to happen in the fall. And at the next board meeting on the 21st, we'll kind of give the board just a brief presentation to show how that's going to play out over the next 18 months.
So the 100 is going to go to the high school to finish that work. The 175, is that going to
I
go to Elm?
believe that was reallocated to maintenance reserve and some other things. So I know that like there was a net add to the facilities budget to cover the cost of contractor work that we're doing to the maintenance work. And also to a little bit of this year's 175 went to pay off the Elm that was already submitted.
Right, that's right. So this year's 175 went there. At the 175 for the 22, 23.
Pretty sure that was pulled back and reallocated to the maintenance reserve in some other places.
Okay. And I don't want to talk about it here, but I would like, we said we're going forward with Elm because safety and security and all that. Where are we? I mean, if we wait for the big capital project, wait for a vote, wait for get that rolling, it could be years. So at some point in executive session, we need to have a discussion about where Elm is.
And I will just say that Elm is behaviorally our most secure building. I think that's a safe comment to make. They just opened to the public for the first time. What was it, last week?
Yeah.
Open house.
For open house. So behaviorally speaking, Elm is our most locked down building. And then we can speak, I think to your point, we can speak to Shirley Goliath Caroline as our head of our district safety initiatives to speak to what's being done in the interim to get us there.
Yeah.
I speak structurally, our BBS is already looking at meeting the needs identified in that previous project, maybe through a different lens with the other needs of the building.
Yeah, and I think what Elliot means too is in terms of security, Elm Drive still hasn't returned to allowing parents in the building. If you arrive to pick up your child, someone walks your child out to you. So they haven't even had the necessity really to return to the pre-COVID
Okay.
visitor experience.
Okay. Yeah, all right. I mean, like I said, I would just like to sort of catch up is, you know, we had what we saw were some exposures. We were going to completely clean those up. We couldn't because the price escalation of everything. The 175 went into reserve. However, if in executive session, we go through and say, you know, you need this thing, you need that thing, you get the wrong doorknob or whatever, we should really look at getting that, pulling that out and figuring out a way to do that.
There are other, won't get too specific, there's other ways to better secure the building that's funding available through NICID, funding the safe back and some other funding sources that we could meet some intermediate needs as well.
Yeah, I just want to make, like I said, I get lost in the, was that 175 or this 175? Are we done? Are we not done? What part's done? So we need to have but it needs to be an executive session, not tonight.
Sorry. That's it for me.
All right, very good. No, Kevin, right?
Yep, his report's there, so if you have any questions, just shoot them to me and I'll share them with him.
Okay.
I'm on. All right, so I just want to highlight the next 3 Wednesdays that all in place for the most part, none any questions, but first of all, tomorrow we have our new item that I didn't have on here before, but it's a Revolutionary War presentation by Robert Webb. He's a history teacher at Ketchum High School and also the husband of our new fourth grade long-term lead person, Allison. And so he's going to present like life in the as a soldier, and he's going to have model a couple of different types of uniforms from Revolutionary War days and some artifacts as well. So we're pretty excited about that. And that'll be out in our courtyard area. So check that out if you have time. So, that's at roughly 12:45, 1 o'clock range tomorrow. And later in the day, just I mentioned the Kindness Club that Mrs. Pulver and Mrs. Harley are running. The Kindness Club last week was 32, but the week prior was 48 students just knocked their socks off with how many are turning out for that event. And besides a little bit of discussion from Mrs. Pulver, they're doing a lot of sidewalk chalk with kindness and painting rocks. So the rocks below the benches, the new benches at Alden are very colorful at this time. So kudos to them for the work they're doing. Next Wednesday, we have a second grade orientation. It's changed a little bit. Again, hooray for third grade team to step up and extend the program. The program will run from Raven buses coming into Alden until after lunch. So we had a lot of activities for them, not only signing a basketball and planting a tree, but also station work with different content areas. So we're excited by that. And Mrs. Pulver will, I know she's going to do an SEL section as well. And that's going to be with, they'll be painting rocks to add to our mix. So that's next Wednesday. And then the moving up on the 22nd, you are invited to, it's at 10 o'clock in the morning. The maybe unique thing is that during COVID time, we did the drive-through moving up, and that was exceptional, not very memorable. And last year, then out in the courtyard moving up, and we liked the courtyard so much, so we're going to try it again this year and see how it goes. We're going to change some of the locations where the kids sat and so on to make it more like they can walk through, get their thing and curl around and sit down rather than the awkward standing off to the side and getting a picture. So, but you're very welcome to come. I just want to talk about the tabletop exercise for safety that we did yesterday. We had Frank Guglieri come in and work with all the place safety team. The focus was on reunification. And so we had each building was given a series of different cases. There are 4 of them with various instruments in to use to help your reunification plan for your building. And so I believe this middle school, high school are going to work toward that, accomplishing some kind of a drill this year, smaller scale.
They're doing it next week, I believe.
Okay, that should be pretty cool. So we're likely going to study what's in the cases and then work with our team. So you can see from the team, our team is like the other buildings as well, that Officer Freer and or Deputy Freer and Officer Witt are probably on every team. And so we're not extraordinary in that respect, but we're thankful they're part of it. And that's kind of it. If there are any questions?
Anybody? But, you know, those rocks, those painted rocks are very valuable. I actually had one on my desk in my office, and that night the cleaner stole it. And I had to get one of my kids to paint me another one. This is ridiculous.
My daughter apparently brings them all home and doesn't leave them there, so I could probably sell you one if you want.
Yeah. All right, thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
All right, John.
Good afternoon, everyone. I just want to thank everybody for giving me the opportunity and putting their trust in me to maintain our buildings, keep it safe for all the children and staff and parents of the Middlebrook Central School District community. I submitted a board report. If you don't mind, I won't read it. If you have any questions on it, I'd like to go over a slideshow that Mr. Garcia and myself put together, just to show you some of the beautification projects we've been taking on, besides doing our regular work. So, Mr. Garcia, we got the slideshow that my eyes are. That is in front of Walden. Working with Tom Rutka, principal there at Walden. We're putting mulch outside the front of the building.
Just you in the hot tub there, right?
No. That's actually Mr. Tim Patrick. He's a new hire. He's really a great worker and a great addition to the Millbrook facilities team.
Just a word about that. Tim did all the front of the building, both sides of the entry in one day.
Yeah, no, he's a good one, hard
It's
worker.
amazing.
Yeah.
Put all that out there.
This is also the front of all of these are the benches and the rocks you guys are probably getting with the paint on. This lift of both the benches, and together as a team, he decided where he would like to have them put, and we cemented them in, we put them in the ground, and they look beautiful. People can sit out there now, and so it looks really great out there. We removed some trees, we're doing some whatever Tom wants, he gets, so.
Don't tell him. You just made a big mistake.
So this was a project we started last year. Mrs. Taylor, who was really great, he came up with this idea. He wanted to beautify the front of the building. We put some lattice in, so we got some vines growing on it. So basically, we're upkeeping them now. We're watering the plants. We're making sure we put fresh mulch in there, keeping an eye on it. And we had a little worry about with the wintertime, if we might hit it with some of our equipment, our snow equipment, but the guys have been very good to take care and make sure they don't damage any of the flowers and bushes out there.
I was just there for field day, and it really looked nice out front.
Yep.
Very
Not
good.
better than, yeah, it was looking a little haggard. That looks awesome.
Okay, this here is the pre-K playground, which we've been waiting for a long time. So finally, we got it under construction. The ground, we had to wait for the ground to harden up because we couldn't bring in, you can see the tractor trailer there, dumping the rock off, otherwise it would have went right into the mud. So basically that's, that ain't me, that's my twin brother out there, so. I worked with the contractor, Mr. Hurley and Mr. Don Von Arm, so we basically framed out the forms for the concrete to be poured. We saved the district some money instead of paying a contractor to do all that hard work. And we laid down a rebar and the wire mesh that you can see inside the thing there. Since that, I'll go to the next picture. Since then, the concrete has been poured. You've probably seen it. You were down at field day. So Mr. Don Von Arn, a custodial worker, he worked on that and he really did a great job. And I just wanted to make a recognition out to him. This is the middle school in the front between the second and third levels. This is another new guy, Chris Viola. He's driving the tractor there. So we actually went and got all the soil and the gravel for all these planters. And Millbrook Gardens was supposed to deliver it to us, but they were so busy they couldn't do it. So we went was about 20 loads, and we just brought it in with the dump truck and we loaded it all up. So this is working with Mr. Cabello and Alice Petrosino and the garden club. So this is a little picture of the boxes, and we had to get once we got the plants in the ground, we had to get the fence up to prevent the wildlife getting there, the plants. So coordinated everything together to work out. But the fence looks really nice, I think, anyway.
Did you guys do the fence or did you have to get a?
No, we
fencing
had a fence
company?
guy come, we had a fence company come.
Okay.
This was another project we started last year with Cheryl Sprague's, picked out all the flowers for us, which was great. So they keep maintaining this. This was another one with the, they used to drive down the sidewalk with the plow trucks. So now we don't do that no more. We use the smaller ones because we damage all that, the plow and everything, and they're coming back beautifully. And we're maintaining them also, we're watering them, and it's coming together. Now, this was a really special project. This was, the wall behind the greeter was just basically white, and it was like some pictures hanging there and everything. So Ms. Cringe and the art club came up with an idea, they wanted to paint a beautiful mural there, so working with us, well, they did all the work, which you can see. We basically took all the pictures down, we patched all the holes in the walls, and then we primed it for them, and then they asked for our paint. So Ms. Cringe gave me all the colors she needed, I got all the paint for them, I got the paint rollers, and we gave it to the kids, we gave them drop cloths and ladders, and that's the final result, which is really beautiful. It really freshens up the lobby in the high school. This was a project of Ms. Colette Eschbaum, I think I pronounced her last name right. Colette, she's a science teacher. She wanted to start like a butterfly garden. So I said, no problem. We went out, we bought the wood, we framed it all out for her, and we got it, her and the kids all started up. And that's actually in the back of the cafeteria. You can see it out the window of the high school. And the kids are taking care of maintaining it, but we're keeping an eye on it. Like in the summertime, we'll keep watering the plants and bushes. And I think that's about it.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
A lot of progress. Yeah, I walked into high school for that concert and I was like, where'd that come from?
Good price.
I didn't know it was there. All right, let's see, where are we going next? And so we got the second reading of policy 4327. Any questions or comments on it? So what we want to be able to do is get all of the 4,000 series approved.
So I'll just add, we did review this back in January as a second reading. There was a question then about the number of days for suspended students and ill students. So with legal counsel, the 3 days is a requirement. You can't really change that for suspended students. The 10 days is in line with the NISBA guidance. We can make it shorter if we want, but it would, drive the ability to support. So we brought it back as is. We did not make any changes to it. And the discussion, if it's really important to you, but to shorten the days for ill students.
Well, in my opinion, I just don't think it's consistent or equitable, so.
In what way?
Oh, meaning if you're going to provide home instruction after 3 days for suspension, then why wouldn't you do that for an injury or an illness as well?
What is the days currently, or what's the policy say currently now?
10 for an illness or injury.
You're right, it's not equitable nor fair. Common sense says it
To
should,
me,
if you do
it
it
should be
for,
based on
We can't
at
change
what
the 3
point is
days.
learning loss, at what point is learning loss occurred. It shouldn't be based on the reason why the child is at home.
correct. In order to be fair, again, common sense wise, in order to be fair, it should be, doesn't matter what the reason. So,
So I think last time the discussion was that we did make every effort to do better than 10 days. We're just not actually obligated with the current policy. So I think what does it drive if we do lower that to 3 days or 5 days or whatever? We have to recover it.
yeah.
It would be very hard to cover.
Okay.
Three days
Could be,
for every
yeah,
student who's sick. We would have to get a tutor for.
Right, what,
And we
You're
would
right, I
try-
remember the discussion now.
yeah, I mean, this year with COVID,
But
we
if
would
there's
make every
another
effort
COVID,
to
the
help
policy.
anyone.
yeah, pretty much right now, if someone's in isolation or quarantine, it's 5 days. So you've been doing that for the past few months. But then you just really have I'm sure, the
We
inconsistency.
have one student, we need a tutor, we can't find one, we can't get.
Right,
Yeah.
and that may be the case.
So that 10 days gives us a window.
Yeah, so maybe you're better off to leave it the way, you're right, it's just because
Or
we're
you
such an
could
old.
What if you
change it
change
and
the
then say based
policy?
upon availability.
Right.
I mean, that's always good. What, if you can't find a person to tutor, you can't find a person.
Right.
Because then we violate,
Yeah.
you know, you don't want to hear upon availability.
The minute you put it in the policy, then you have to do it, and if you don't do it, for whatever reason, you can't find a tutor, you don't, you know, whatever, then you open yourself up for legal issues.
And of course, we're working with parents anyway. Teachers are working with parents when they're at home. So they're in contact with their teachers. We're giving them resources, work, if they're up to it, right? If they're not too sick.
I mean, I'm only one person. So.
Is there a way so we can tickle it and revisit next year, just to see if anything's changed in the job market that we may want to revisit? At least we could look at it. Maybe that'd be the way to do it, to tickle it for.
To review that policy.
3 days is required though, right?
The 3 for suspended students is illegal.
That's the issue right there.
That's
You
the
know.
issue, right? It's like, I know you can't really go there.
That is it.
Which is an interesting visit.
Yeah, why don't we do that? Why don't we tickle it for, I don't know, 6 months for a revisit, just to take a look, see how the world is and.
Yeah.
Okay, that'd be fine.
Anything else on that one? All right, so there's the second reading, we approve the policy. Motion to approve 4,000 series policies as presented to the board at this meeting. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? Any other discussion?
Yeah, just wonder, is it documented that we will revisit it?
So you know how I've sent out the task list to all of you? I'll add that in there and we'll put it as a December item. And then we'll keep track of it too through our policy committee.
Okay, all right, yeah, and thanks to the policy committee.
All in favor?
Building,
Any against? All right, social and emotional learning update.
Yeah, I think we spoke a lot about it during the slide deck, but just 2 pieces. I'm very excited about the launching of the Climate and Culture Committee. And the first, one of the major agenda items for the first meeting will be reviewing the code of conduct. And so as a team, I know that was an interest of families and community and administrative having this conversation to see, are there tweaks, are there things that we want to reconsider or consider adding or adjusting and making recommendations. So
is that committee already built? Do you have all the people that are on that committee?
Folks I've sent out a canvas letter, and if you're interested, just contact me. And so I have about 10 people. I did also reach out to high school students. I haven't heard from any, but I hope that that a few join.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Join in the conversation.
When are you actually gonna implement that? 'Cause
June
I'm-
16th.
when is it?
June 16th.
So, I mean, we do our reorganization the first week of July, which is when we also fill all the subcommittees and committees and all that. We could add that to that list, right? And then, I mean, you're welcome to join it now, but if you want to.
Yeah, I was just seeing with the feed. I know you had said 10 people before, but I was just wondering, is it, and you don't have to answer, was it just community? Was it parents? Was it administration, teachers, things like that? So if we'll do it then.
Right now, it's a mix of parents and administration.
Okay.
Yeah, we're hoping that there's a student, a high school student who will join us in the conversation.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
when I said reorg though, Jen, we only focus on, you know, Jen's gonna join this, Dave's gonna join that. We don't do the whole committee, so if you want more information on the committee itself, that's, might as well do it.
Harry, when are we gonna analyze the committees before the? We talked about briefly about that. They're gonna be in the next meeting before. the
Yeah.
reorg?
Yeah, we need to do that on the last meeting in June.
Okay.
What was that?
Just reviewing all the committees we have.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and see if
I mean, there's some that we're absolutely required by law to have.
Right.
And then there's some that we had set up to take care of a specific thing. But yeah, we should put that on next
For the next, yeah,
meeting's agenda. Okay.
And then I'll try to buy a list of the required committees that you have to have, and then you can connect them up.
Just to plant the seed for this, when the committee does meet with the disciplinary review, and I'm sure I'll bring it up, after recommendations are made. But if there's a way, again, I'm thinking only common sense, if there's a way that certain things could, if it read that if somebody insulted, bullied, whatever, for sexual, religious, you could have like a subclass. Instead of going to, I guess, step 1 or step 2 of punishment, if certain ones could be more, like go right to a 3. If it say it was sexual orientation, or something like that, or religion. I don't know how, if there's anything against doing so in SED regulations, but instead of going through, okay, the first time you said, don't do it again, second time, don't do it again, and third time, they actually get a 1-day suspension where you'd actually jump from 2 to 3. From it happens, that's it. It goes to the max. If that can be done, just support.
All right, anything else? All right, next is the approved the change order for the high school for the door access and the fire alarm modifications. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, any discussion? I hate to do it, but this is, where is this extra money coming from?
It's not extra. It was money that was outside the project that we're bringing inside.
Okay, all right. All right, any other questions? All in favor? Aye. Any against? All right, future agenda items, low enrollment review. Yeah, we definitely have to do that again. But is that done? This is where we look at any class that's under 8 students. But do we know that already?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
This low enrollment thing is where we say, oh, the French 9 only has 2 students,
For
right?
selections only, so I can tell you which courses did not, which is what we did last year. We went through the courses that didn't have enough requests
Yeah.
to necessarily run. Ironically, that's what I was just looking through it now.
Okay, cool. Goals, all right. Anything else other than the subcommittee review, the committee review?
Could we get a number for how many 8th graders are not going for high school for
Going to private
reason?
school.
So before we go into executive session, I just want everybody to know, if you're listening in, we may come back, there may be adjustments to the agenda to cover actions that were discussed and agreed to, or whatever you want to call it, in executive session. So with that, do I have a motion to go to executive session? Move. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any against? All right, 10 minutes? Everybody in there?